Polar Express.
That's it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's read. Tonight we're reading The Truman Show, screenplay by Andrew Niccol, who wrote 3 of my favorite movies. And this is one of them, The Truman Show. And we have a great cast tonight. We have Anne, who's joining us as the mother, and Sylvia and Lauren. Travis, who will be Christof tonight. There he is. George, who's playing Marlon and the interviewer. Hunter, who's Kirk, the father. And Cate, who will be playing Meryl. And Logan, who will be Truman of The Truman Show. And they're all playing like 15 other characters too. So try not to get confused. There's a lot of bit parts in this one. So I will be doing the screen, the scene description. So if we are all ready, I'll go ahead and give it a start. The Truman Show, a screenplay by Andrew Niccol. A fogged mirror. Behind the fog, we hear the sounds of a bathroom. After a long moment, a hand wipes the condensation from the glass to reveal the face of Truman Burbank. He wears a sleeveless Hanes undershirt and blue striped pajama bottoms. Behind him, a white glazed tiled bathroom wall. It is immediately apparent that we are viewing him through a two-way mirror. Truman, expressionless, studies his reflection in the mirror. For a long moment, he does nothing. He continues to look impassively into the mirror for what becomes an uncomfortably long time. Still nothing. Finally, he speaks, talking to himself in the mirror as if participating in a TV interview.
Personally, I think the unconquered South face is the only one worth scaling. Of course, it's a 20,000-foot sheer wall of ice, but when did that ever stop me before? Naturally, I intend to make the ascent without the benefit of oxygen, but also without crampons or even an ice pick. Oh, risks. Well, sure, I'm aware of the risks. Why else do you think I would spend 7 years as an adjuster in a life insurance company?
Truman, you're gonna be late.
Truman resignedly opens the door of the cabinet and replaces his shaving tackle. It partially obscures the lens of a hidden camera. He closes the door and exits. Interior kitchen morning. Meryl, wearing a stylish robe, sits at the kitchen table sipping coffee. On the table in front of her lies a parcel. Truman enters and glances at the gift.
What's that?
It's a surprise.
Truman unwraps the parcel, an expensive-looking set of exercise sweats.
Well, what do you think?
They're perfect. Thank you.
Truman returns Meryl's kiss.
Try it on.
Truman pulls the top over his head, and as he does so, a closer shot focuses on the manufacturer's name.
I thought you could wear them when you do your exercises. Pre-shrunk, and they breathe.
Exterior Truman's house day. Wearing a business suit, briefcase in hand, Truman emerges from his pleasant Victorian-inspired picket-fenced house onto an idyllic suburban street of similarly picturesque homes. A neighbor, Spencer, is taking in trash cans, whistling a tune. Spencer breaks off abruptly as Truman approaches his car. His license plate reads, Sea Haven, a nice place to live.
Morning, Truman.
Morning, Spencer. Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Spencer's dog, Pluto, bounds happily over to Truman.
Hey, Pluto!
Truman exchanges a polite nod with the Washingtons, an African-American family across the street. Mr. Washington is farewelled by his wife and child. Truman is about to climb into his car when he is distracted by a high-pitched whistling sound. Suddenly, a large spherical glass object falls from the sky and lands with deafening crash on the street, several yards from his car. A startled Truman looks to Spencer, but he has abruptly disappeared inside his house with Pluto. Mrs. Washington and Washington Jr. have also made themselves scarce. Truman investigates. Amidst a sea of shattered glass are remains of a light mechanism. He looks around him, but the street is deserted. He checks that all the surrounding street lights are accounted for, even though the fallen fixture is far larger. He looks up into the sky, but there is no plane in sight. With some effort, Truman picks up what's left of the crumpled light and loads it into the trunk. A label on the light fixture reads, Sirius, 9 Canis Major. As he drives away, we hear the sound of his car radio. Another glorious morning in Sea Haven, folks. Interior, Truman's car, Sea Haven day. Truman makes his way along the streets of Sea Haven past a series of quaint pastel-shaded cottages. A high angle reveals an anonymous mid-sized town built around a small, pretty bay. A cluster of high-rise buildings stand at the water's edge overlooking a marina. Surrounding the commercial center lie neatly arranged suburbs. Pausing at the traffic light along the seaside road, Truman looks through a curious wooden arch to the beach and beyond. The sight triggers a memory in his head. Playback, exterior, long, wide beach day. Unlike conventional flashback, the scene in his memory appears to be playing on a television screen. 4-year-old Truman runs toward a bluff on the beach. The boy's father, Kirk, late 30s, beer bottle in hand, flirts with 2 teenage girls at the shoreline. Suddenly, the father remembers his son. He looks anxiously around. The sight of the boy at the far end of the beach causes him to drop his bottle in the sand and run to Truman. The boy is near the top of the cliff before his agitated father comes within earshot.
Truman! Truman, stop!
Truman turns from his perch and waves happily down to his father, but the smile quickly vanishes when he registers the anger and distress on his father's face.
Come down now.
His father's unnatural anxiety makes the next bay even more tantalizing. The boy considers defying his father. He puts his hand on the rock above him to stretch up and sneak a peek at the other side. One good stretch would do it.
No.
Why? What's the error?
Nothing. It's dangerous. Come down now, please.
Truman is suddenly aware that the hundreds of other beachgoers have stopped their activities to stare at him. Reluctantly, he starts to retrace his steps down the rocks. When he finally jumps to the sand, his father embraces him and leads him away.
I told you to stay close. Don't ever leave my side again. You've got to know your limitations. You could have fallen.
Interior Truman's car, downtown Sea Haven, morning present. Through his car window, Truman buys a cup of coffee from the street vendor.
How are you, Truman?
Vital signs are good.
He pulls into a parking space and sips on the coffee. As he drinks, he becomes aware of a school bell summoning children to class in the adjacent elementary school. The image prompts another childhood memory. Playback, interior Sea Haven Elementary School classroom, day. Once again, the flashback appears to be playing on a television screen. 7-year-old Truman sits in the middle row of an elementary school classroom surrounded by 20 or so other well-scrubbed uniformed youngsters. Marlon, the boy next to Truman, is on his feet under the scrutiny of a kindly Norman Rockwell-style schoolmistress.
What do you want to do when you grow up, Marlon?
I want to be an entrepreneur like my dad.
Tell the class what an entrepreneur does, Marlon.
He makes a lot of money, ma'am.
A good one does, Marlon. Perhaps I'll be coming to you for a loan one of these days.
The class tithers. Marlon sits down and winks to Truman.
What about you, Truman?
Truman rises to his feet, gathering his nerve.
I want to be an explorer, like Magellan.
The schoolmistress smiles benevolently.
I'm afraid no one's going to pay you to do that, Truman. You might have to find something a little more practical. Besides, you're too late. There's really nothing left to explore.
The class roars with laughter as the crestfallen Truman takes his seat. Exterior parking lot day, present. Truman's briefcase in hand crosses from the parking lot to the town square, surrounded by similarly suited briefcase-toting office workers. Exterior downtown Sea Haven day. Truman walks briskly down the bustling city street, a snarl of taxis, buses, and commuter traffic. A street vendor thrusts a pretzel under Truman's nose. A career woman tries to catch his eye. Truman stops at a kiosk and buys a newspaper, the Island Times.
Is that all for you, Truman?
That's all. Thanks, Errol.
Other customers also purchase the morning paper. Tucking his copy under his arm, Truman selects a glossy magazine from a rack, quickly flicking through the pages. Glancing in the direction of the newspaper vendor and finding him busy with another customer, Truly deftly tears a portion of the open page and pockets the cutting. He hastily replaces the magazine and departs. As Truman hurries away, the vendor exits the kiosk and picks up the magazine, instantly turning to the torn page. It is a cosmetics advertisement with the model's nose missing. However, the vendor makes no effort to confront Truman, almost as if he were expecting it. Exterior Sea Haven Life and Accident Incorporated day. Truman passes along a row of shops and offices, finally entering a building that proudly proclaims Sea Haven Life and Accident Incorporated above the entrance. He has evidently taken his teacher's advice. In a cramped, cluttered cubicle, Truman talks on the telephone.
Okay, look, let's call it what it is. I'm not gonna lie to you. Life insurance is death insurance. You gotta ask yourself 2 questions. 1, in the event of your death, will anyone experience financial loss? And 2, do you care?
A clerk drops a large reference book on Truman's desk. Truman checks the spine. Maritime accidents.
Hold on, will you? This is no good. It lumps all maritime accidents together. I need drownings as a separate category.
The clerk shrugs, returns the book to his cart, and continues his rounds.
Just think about what I've been saying and let me... Hello?
The person on the other end has hung up. With an apathetic shrug, Truman replaces the receiver. He looks over his shoulder and places another call.
Can you connect me with directory inquiries in Fiji?
A coworker suddenly pokes his head over the neighboring cubicle,
What do you know, Truman?
embarrassed, mouthing the word.
I'm sorry, ma'am. If he's in a coma, he's probably uninsurable.
The coworker disappears back into his own cubicle.
Hello, operator. Yes, Fiji. Do you have a listing for a Lauren Garland? Nothing listed. What about a Sylvia Garland? S for Sylvia? Nothing? Okay, thanks.
The disconsolate, Truman replaces the receiver. Another insurance agent are heading to lunch. Truman puts on his jacket and follows them to the elevators. Interior, local Italian deli, lunchtime. Behind the deli counter, Tyrone, 50s, is having his hair brushed by a young man. The man fusses one final time, then swiftly departs through a rear door just as Truman enters the store. Tyrone has anticipated Truman's order and has already begun preparing a meatball and mozzarella sandwich on an Italian roll. Truman gazes at the sandwich skillfully under construction, pained by his own predictability.
How's it going, Truman?
Not bad. Just won the state lottery.
Good, good.
Tyrone, what if I said I didn't want meatball today?
I'd ask for identification.
Truman forces a half smile and exits.
See you tomorrow, Truman.
You can count on it.
Exterior secluded park day. Truman eats lunch alone at a small out-of-the-way park dominated by a gazebo. From his briefcase, he pulls out an old hard-covered book, To the Ends of the Earth, The Age of Exploration. He reads it to himself, his sandwich uneaten beside him. Struck by a particular passage, he reads aloud.
With a mutiny but half repressed and starvation imminent, he pressed southward until he found the long-hoped-for straits.
Truman is interrupted by a transient in a wheelchair. It is the man's sneakers Truman notices first. Over the top of his book, they're distinctively initialed TS. Still under the spell of the account of Magellan, he hands the grateful man his sandwich. Interior or conference room somewhere. Day. A group of a dozen men and women of varying ages sit around a circular conference table in a sterile, windowless meeting room. All stare at a single man placed in the center of the table, anticipating a call. On cue, the phone rings and one of the men, after waiting for a second ring, picks up.
Hello? I'm sorry, I've got more than enough life insurance.
He hangs up. After a moment, the phone rings again. Interior Insurance Company Day. Truman sits at his desk making a cold call.
This isn't about insurance. This is the great variable. When will death occur? Could be a week, a month, a year. It could happen today. A sunbather minding his own business gets stabbed in the heart by the tip of a runaway beach umbrella. No way you can guard against that kind of thing. No way at all.
The prospect on the other end, unimpressed with Truman's pitch, hangs up. Truman's supervisor, Lawrence, younger than Truman by several years, sharper suit, sharper haircut, appears around the corner of the cubicle.
Hey, Burbank, I've got a prospect in Wells Park I need you to close.
Truman's face falls. He stares out of his third-floor window at the hazy skyline of a nearby island across the bay.
What, Wells Park on Harbor Island?
You know another one?
I can't do it. I've got an appointment. Dentist.
You'll lose a lot more than your teeth if you don't meet your quota, Burbank. They're making cutbacks at the end of the month. You need this. Besides, a half hour across the bay, sea air, do you good.
Truman sinks back into his seat and stares out at the distant skyline. The buildings appear very small. Still, very still. Truman picks up a photo of his wife, Meryl, deposits it in his briefcase, and exits. Exterior Sea Haven day. Truman's car heads out of the city on its way to the ferry. Truman exits his car, mustering all his nerve. He marches into the Sea Haven terminal and buys a token for the ferry. Out of his hearing, 2 ferry workers observe Truman's agitated behavior.
I got a feeling this is the day.
No way. Say he makes it through the turnstiles, but he never gets on.
The 2 men shake on the wager. Unaware of the scrutiny, Truman passes through the turnstiles with a herd of tourists and commuters. He makes his way across the terminal, but abruptly stops at the gangway. As the other passengers impatiently brush past him onto the boat, Truman remains frozen to the spot, mesmerized by the scummy water rising and falling beneath the dock. It triggers a memory in his head. Playback, exterior Sea Haven Harbor day. As always, the flashback appears to play on a television screen. 7-year-old Truman, wearing a life jacket, sits alongside his father, Kirk, in a small sailing dinghy, sailing into the stiff breeze. A second sailboat circles them. We observe the father and son from an angle atop the mast of the neighboring vessel.
Go further, Daddy. Let's go further.
It's getting rough, Truman.
Please.
Kirk shakes his head and ruefully indulges his son by heading towards the gathering storm on the horizon. Interior Sea Haven Ferry Terminal, day present. Truman turns and begins to fight his way back against the tide of passengers boarding the ferry, emerging back onto the street, gasping for air. The ferry workers settle their wager. Exterior roadway adjacent to the ferry terminal, day. Truman stands at a payphone. By stretching the payphone's receiver cord as far as it will go, he is just able to reach his arm and leg into the driver's door of his car. He punctuates his conversation with blasts on the car's horn while revving the car's engine with his outstretched foot. A few passing motorists and pedestrians regard Truman curiously.
I'm telling you, the traffic is insane. Never make it to the ferry in time. What can I do? What? Well, Lawrence, I can't hear you.
Truman hangs up the phone. Interior Truman's car day. On his way home, a large detour sign forces him onto a secondary road. Interior Truman's car, Parkland, Sea Haven day. Truman drives along a winding road through Parkland. He pulls up at a red light. No other traffic around. His attention is caught by an attractive young woman sitting on a park bench not far from the intersection. She is being taunted by 2 young thugs. She attempts to ignore the youths by concentrating on the book in her lap.
You want to read to me?
His companion smirks.
You want to read to me?
The boy reaches over and snatches the novel from her grasp.
My friend asked you a question.
The woman picks up her bag in a reflex and holds it to her. She looks about for assistance, briefly catching Truman's eye. The youths also look in Truman's direction, staring him down.
Please?
The boy returns the book to the woman, but before doing so, rips out the last page from the novel and stuffs it in his shirt pocket.
And you're gonna have to ask me how it ends.
One of the youths grabs the woman, drags her toward the surrounding woods.
We're going to tell you how it ends, baby.
Help! Please help!
As they drag her towards the undergrowth, Truman, horrified, half gets out of the car, fearful of his own safety as much as the woman's. Truman shouts to the youths, his voice cracking with fear.
Hey, let her go.
A huge truck suddenly appears behind Truman's car, its horn blasting, the driver hurtling abuse. Truman hesitates as the youths drag the woman into the bushes, conflicted over whether or not to help. The truck driver keeps his hand on the horn. Truman retreats back into his car and reluctantly drives on. Exterior Parkland Woods day. Truman's car safely out of sight, the youths promptly release the young woman. She calmly brushes herself off, no longer afraid. The young men, no longer angry, retrieve her bag.
Thanks.
The threesome walks back towards the roadway as if lifelong friends.
He did nothing.
Physical violence paralyzes him. Always has.
Exterior Truman's house, dusk. Beyond the pretty picket fence at the end of the property flows a busy highway. Truman is mowing the lawn. From his expression, it would seem that he's still reflecting on his inaction in the park. He switches off the mower and leans on the handle. He's distracted by the arrival of his wife, Meryl, exiting the house. She wears a nurse's uniform and carries a curious metal device attached to a cardboard backing. She kisses Truman affectionately on the cheek.
Hi, honey. Look at this. It's a chef's mate. Dicer, slicer, peeler in one. Never needs sharpening. Dishwasher safe.
Gee, it's great.
Looking over Truman's shoulder, Meryl notices a small uncut patch of grass missed by Truman in one of his passes.
You missed a section.
Meryl enters the house. Truman restarts the lawnmower and obediently pushes it towards the offending patch of lawn. As the mower brushes up against the unconforming blades of grass, Truman pulls back abruptly. He checks the kitchen window for Meryl and wheels the mower away, leaving the patch uncut. Interior Truman's house, living room, night. Meryl is removing the cap of her nurse's uniform when Truman enters.
How'd it go today?
A man tripped and fell on a chainsaw. We got 3 of his fingers back on.
Truman retrieves a bucket of golf balls and a golf club from behind the door.
I was hoping we could have a special evening.
I won't be late.
Did something happen today?
Truman turns to her too sharply, his guilt showing.
What could happen?
Truman exits. Exterior unfinished bridge, night. A half-constructed bridge, paved but unmarked, ends abruptly in midair, reinforcing steel protruding from the concrete. Truman stands at the end of the unfinished bridge with Marlon, 30s, a well-filled physique. Marlon drinks beer from a can while Truman addresses a teed-up golf ball with number 3 wood. The headlights of their 2 parked cars light the cement fairway. Their target is a sign at the far end of the bridge proclaiming the Sea Haven Causeway, linking Sea Haven Island with the rest of the world. Your tax dollars at work. An upturned plastic cone at the foot of the sign is the hole. Truman winds up and swings, making a healthy contact with the ball. The ball arches away into the night sky. From a new angle, we see the ball take a huge hop on the outside lane of the abandoned freeway and continue down the asphalt beyond the sign. Marlon tosses Truman another off-white ball from a bucket of badly scarred golf balls. Truman sets the ball up on the makeshift tee area and launches himself into a second shot. With a slight fade, the second ball carries even further than the first.
Whose nuts were those?
Truman hands Marlon their sole golf club without comment. Marlon tees up a ball of his own, and he uses orange golf balls.
I'm gonna get out, Marlon.
Yeah? Out of what?
Out of my job, out of Sea Haven, off of this island, out!
Marlon takes a practice swing.
Out of your job? What the hell's wrong with your job? You got a great job. You got a desk job. I'd kill for a desk job.
Marlon addresses the ball and swings. A sweeping hook shot that bounces off the freeway and into the water hazard.
Son of a bitch. Try stocking vending machines for a living. My biggest decision of the day is whether the Almond Joys look better next to the Snickers or the Baby Ruths.
Truman selects another M ball from the bucket and tosses it to Marlon.
Have you ever gotten itchy feet?
Overcompensating with his second shot, Marlon slices the ball in the other direction. A lucky bounce keeps it on the green. The ball rolls in the direction of the upturned cone.
Where's there to go?
Truman gulps his beer as he prepares his answer.
Fiji.
Marlon considers Truman's suggestion as he sips his beer.
Fiji? Where the hell is Fiji exactly? Near Florida? You can't drive there, can you?
Truman picks up a golf ball to demonstrate. He points to the dimple on his makeshift globe.
See here? This is us. And all the way around here, Fiji. You can't get further away before you start coming back. You know, there are still islands in Fiji where no human has ever set foot.
So when are you leaving?
It's not that simple. It takes money, planning. You can't just up and go. Oh, I'm gonna do it. Don't worry about that. Just gotta move slow. Pick my moment. Bonus time just around the corner. As soon as I finish the
Nursery?
spare room, I can start thinking about selling up. I'll be gone. Up and away on that big steel bird. I'm going. Don't you worry about that.
Marlon nods, even though the concept of taking flight is beyond his imagination.
I never knew anybody who wanted to leave Sea Haven.
An awkward moment. Truman, once again, not so sure of himself. Interior, a dimly lit room somewhere. Night. A man looks up sharply. He stares into camera. Christof, late 50s. A vitality in his eyes that belies his years. A news anchor style earpiece disappears down the neck of his suit. Exterior bridge night. Truman and Marlon wander along the empty bridge, retrieving their golf balls. Marlon goes to say something to the disconsolate Truman, but is momentarily distracted. He raises his hand to his ear. Truman places another of the golf balls in his pocket.
Truman, I did think about moving away one time.
Yeah? What happened?
I figured, what's the point? I knew I'd just be taking my problems with me. Once the kids came along, it made me look at Sea Haven with new eyes. I realized, what the hell could be better than this? I'm telling you, what you really need is someone to carry on the Burbank name.
Think so?
Trust me.
Marlon picks up the last ball at the mouth of the upturned cone. The ball is white.
You win.
They approach Truman's car. Truman opens the trunk to deposit their humble golfing equipment. Inside are the remains of the fallen light fixture.
Well, you think it could have dropped off of an airliner?
Sure, it's halogen. Shame it didn't hit you. You could have sued. You coming for a drink?
I can't tonight.
Interior lighthouse, night. From the point of view of the lighthouse's lantern room, we observe Truman sitting on the beach, staring out to sea. Closer on Truman, he has the portable tape recorder slung over his shoulder and points a corded microphone at the surf. We watch Truman's impassive face as he makes the recording of the lapping waves. The lamp from the lighthouse occasionally falls upon Truman. Playback, exterior ocean day. As always, the flashback appears to play on a television screen. The sky is black with storm clouds. Gale force winds lash rain onto the faces of 7-year-old Truman and his father, Kirk. As Kirk stands up to get his bearings, a freak gust of wind catches the sail. The boom whips across the stern and strikes Kirk flush in the head, knocking him overboard. Truman, wearing the sole life jacket, desperately reaches for his father. He momentarily has hold of his father's hand when Kirk is abruptly dragged beneath the surface.
Daddy! Daddy!
His cries go unanswered. 7-year-old Truman finds himself alone. The storm abruptly passed. The wind suddenly dropped. The water stilled. The frightened Truman examines the ring he holds in his open hand, his father's ring, wrenched from his finger in Truman's fight to keep him afloat. Exterior beach night present. A close-up of Truman from Kirk's ring that Truman now wears. Then from the lighthouse point of view, we observe Truman get to his feet and walk towards the dark water. He stands at the water's edge.
I'm sorry, Dad. Sorry.
As if in reply, a tongue of lightning flashes across the distant skyline, followed by a growl of thunder. Interior, a living room somewhere. Night. 2 old women, 70s, sit beside each other on a sofa, looking directly into camera as they talk.
I left him with more than this obvious fear of water.
He was there the same curious little boy again.
Half the women I know named their children after him.
Exterior beach parking lot, night. Truman is forced to leg it through a sudden rain shower to his car. From Truman's point of view, the shower appears quite normal. However, viewed from a distance, we see that the shower is extremely localized, encircling only him, as if a small cloud is directly above his head, tracking his progress. As Truman crosses the parking lot, the shower crosses with him. Sensing something amiss, Truman dances back and forth across the street, intrigued by the curious phenomenon. He hums a few bars of Singing in the Rain. The rain becomes heavier, covering a wider area. Truman runs the remaining distance to his car. Interior Truman's house nursery, night. The drenched Truman enters to find Meryl in the unfinished nursery, comparing wallpaper samples. Meryl wears a robe, a glimpse of black negligee beneath.
Where have you been?
I'm thinking.
Oh, God.
I figured we could scrape together about 8,000.
Every time, you and
We
Marlon.
could bum around the world for a year on that.
And then what, Truman? We'd be back where we were 5 years ago. You're talking like a teenager.
Maybe I feel like a teenager.
We're mortgaged to the eyeballs, Truman. There's the car payments. Are we just going to walk away from our financial obligations?
Truman, still dripping on the floor, holds Meryl by the arms. He talks excitedly to her the way we imagine he did when they were courting.
It'd be an adventure.
I thought we were going to try for a baby. Isn't that enough of an adventure?
That can wait. I want to get away, see some of the world, explore.
Meryl gives a derisive laugh.
You want to be an explorer? You don't even have a passport, Truman. I bet you don't even know how to get one.
The words sting. Truman turns away. Seeing the pain she's caused, she changes tack.
This'll pass. Everybody thinks like this now and then. Come to bed.
I think I'm gonna stay up for a while.
Interior an office building somewhere. Reception, night. In the reception area of an office building, 2 uniformed guards drink coffee.
How can they have a child?
It's not gonna be his.
you idiot. Sorry, go ahead.
Why not?
You think she'd go through with it?
Sure she would.
Guess I always thought they'd adopt.
Exterior Truman Street, dawn. There is something peculiar about the way the sun rises over Sea Haven Island. The light appears in an arc that's slightly too perfect and well-defined. Interior Truman's bedroom, morning. In front of his bedroom window, Truman, wearing his new sweats, performs an exercise routine of his own invention. He counts off the exercises to himself, cheating as he does so. He counts 5 leg lifts for every 2 he completes.
5? 15. Ooh, 2 more makes 20.
Interior, a bedroom somewhere, morning. A middle-aged married couple in identical matching sweats repeat the same eccentric exercises in perfect sync, as if they were in a class led by Truman. Exterior car, day. Truman climbs into the car and switches on the radio. He drives down the street. Another glorious morning in Sea Haven, folks. Don't forget to buckle up. Truman mutters to himself, as is custom. Truman emerges from the parking lot and, as usual, stops at the newspaper stand. He picks up a glossy magazine and flips through the cosmetic ads, surreptitiously tearing a pair of eyes from one of the pages. He returns the magazine to the rack. As usual, the newspaper vendor fails to intervene. Truman begins his daily pilgrimage to work through the rush of pedestrian traffic. As he enters the street leading to his office, he glimpses a homeless man reflected in the window of a parked car. Truman, spellbound by the man, suddenly wheels around to face him. The homeless man, late 50s, more well-groomed and well-fed than the average vagrant, has a serene smile on his face. The homeless man places his hand ever so gently on Truman's cheek. Truman makes no effort to withdraw. He's transfixed by the man's eyes. He appears to recognize him.
Dad?
Suddenly, an elegant woman shopper walking a small wiener dog and a business executive carrying a briefcase walking in opposite directions along the sidewalk grab the homeless man, one under each arm, lifting the homeless man off the ground. They start to whisk the bewildered derelict down the street.
Stop! Stop!
Truman begins to give chase. However, the shopper and the businessman are surprisingly fleet-footed. Even more surprising, as Truman embarks on the pursuit, is the behavior of the pedestrians and commuters. They appear to part for the fleeting trio, then close ranks in front of him. Is it accidental, or are the pedestrians working together, running interference?
Get out of the way! Out of the way!
They are escaping. Truman finally breaks through the pack, bowling over several of the pedestrians in the process. Just as he gets within reach of the shopper and the businessman, a bus suddenly screeches to a halt beside the abductors, doors already open. The woman shopper and the executive bundle the homeless man onto the bus. Truman lurches after them, but he is met by the bus doors closing sharply in his face.
Hey, stop! Stop the bus!
Truman thumps it against the doors, but the bus driver ignores his cries and the bus roars away. The other passengers in the bus, apparently oblivious to the incident, keep staring straight ahead. Truman continues to give chase when a taxi appears out of nowhere and cuts in front of him, blocking his path. When he recovers, the bus has disappeared. The mysterious crowd of pedestrians has also dissolved as if nothing ever existed. Retracing his steps, head reeling, wondering if he could have imagined the whole incident, Truman discovers that the woman shopper has left her wiener dog behind. The dog wanders aimlessly on the pavement, its leash trailing behind it. Interior mother's house, day. Truman paces impatiently in the living room of his mother's cramped, fussy, doilied little house full of Burbank family memorabilia. A cluster of framed photographs is dominated by one of his father, trimmed with a black ribbon. A toilet flushes and Truman's mother finally emerges from the next room. She presents something of a contradiction. Although she walks with the aid of a walker, she's actually a well-preserved 60. She wears a glamorous nightgown and a full head of bleached blonde hair.
How are you, Mom? I said, how are you, Mother?
Well, I made it through another night.
How's your hip?
It's just so.
Truman supports mother.
You know, surprises aren't good for me. You should really call before you come over, dear.
Look, I've got something to tell you. You better sit down.
Truman helps her onto an overstuffed armchair.
Oh, you look very pale, Truman. Are you taking your vitamin Ds?
I spent half my life out in the sun, Mother. Why would I need vitamin D?
Well, I feel certain my condition runs in the family. Oh, jeez. Can this wait, dear?
He kneels beside her.
No, I'm afraid it can't.
Truman takes a deep breath as he prepares to give her the news.
Look, I know this is going to sound insane, Mother, but I saw Dad today on Lancaster Circle. He's alive.
Mother smiles condescendingly.
It doesn't sound insane, Truman. I swear I see him 10 times a week and 100 faces. I almost hugged a perfect stranger in the salon last Thursday.
It was Dad. I swear, dressed like a homeless man. And you know what else was really strange? A businessman and a woman with a little dog appeared from nowhere and forced him onto a bus.
About time they started cleaning up the trash downtown. We don't want to end up like the rest of the country.
They never found Dad's body. Maybe somehow...
Darling.
I'm telling you. If it wasn't him, it was his twin. Did Dad have a brother?
You know, he was an only child, like you. I know how bad you feel about what happened, sailing into that storm. I don't blame you, Truman. I never have.
Mother kisses Truman on the cheek.
I was thinking about going lighter. What do you think?
Truman regards his mother. Her hair is already impossibly blonde. Interior Truman's basement dusk. The basement is cluttered with junk, ships and bottles, a train track without trains, an oxygen mask, a stringless guitar, many abandoned projects. The basement is dimly lit by a single naked bulb. Truman looks over his shoulder before opening a large walk-in cupboard. On the cupboard door is a wall map of the Pacific Ocean. The Fiji Island are carefully circled. Amongst the many tools and household implements inside the cupboard is a trunk under a dusty canvas sheet. He pulls the trunk into the room, unfastens the lock, and opens the lid. Inside, mementos from his youth, a how to sail book, a stack of Great Explorers magazines, and beneath it all, a garment in a dry cleaning bag. Truman carefully lifts up the plastic to reveal a young woman's cardigan sweater. He puts the cardigan to his nose and takes in its scent. Footsteps. Truman hastily drops the cardigan in the trunk and shuts the lid. Meryl's leg appears on the stairs.
What are you doing down there?
Fixing the mower. Saw my father today.
I know.
How do you know?
Your mother called. You shouldn't have said her like that.
Meryl's response takes the wind out of Truman's sails.
What did you want?
I made macaroni.
I'm hungry.
Meryl nods, not at all convinced.
We really ought to toss that mower out. Get one of those new elk rotaries.
Truman does not reply. After an uncomfortable pause, she turns back up the stairs. Truman waits a moment before reopening the trunk. He removes the cardigan and holds it up, reminiscing. Interior, a kitchen somewhere, night. A mother, daughter, about 12, and a baby in a high chair stare into the camera.
What's he doing?
They removed all physical trace of her, but they couldn't erase the memory.
Memory of who?
Playback montage, exterior, college campus steps, day. Once again, the images appear to be playing on a television screen. On the steps of a typical college campus, Truman, 21, in a college band uniform, participates in a football pep rally. Marlon, 21, a member of the football team, and Meryl, 21, a cheerleader, are nearby. Truman observes an ethereal-looking young woman walk by. Lauren. Playback, interior dance hall night. At the college dance, Truman dances with Meryl. Lauren dances by with a partner of her own. However, Truman only has eyes for Lauren. Suddenly, she is escorted from the dance floor. Playback, exterior college campus street day. Truman almost trips off the curb as he waves to Lauren riding towards him on a bicycle. However, she rides right by with her nose in the air, not even acknowledging his presence. Truman puzzled by her change of heart. The montage ends at a scene in a college library. Playback interior college library night. In the school library, Truman, 21, sits with Marlon, 21, and wife-to-be, Meryl, 21, doing a final cram for the test. The students begin to pack up their books. Meryl gives Truman a peck on the cheek.
Come on, Truman, haven't you studied enough?
I want to look over a couple things.
Take the C average. That's what I do.
Truman looks up from his books. The library is almost deserted. He spies a girl's hand around the table divider. Truman musters the nerve to poke his head over the divider. He finds Lauren on the other side, buried in a book.
Konnichiwa.
Lauren looks blank.
You take Japanese.
Oh, yes,
Lauren, right?
that's right. Lauren,
Truman. Truman Burbank.
I'm not allowed to talk to you.
Truman is not surprised.
It's okay. Probably wouldn't want to talk to me either.
I'm sorry, it's not up to me.
Oh, you have a boyfriend. Of course you do.
Lauren looks about her, unsure.
No,
No? Really? Good. I thought possibly a pizza? How about Friday?
no.
Saturday?
Lauren looks around the almost deserted library.
Actually, I'm free Sunday.
Now?
Right now? We got finals tomorrow.
If we don't go now, it won't happen.
Truman hesitates.
Well, what do you want to do?
I think I've studied enough.
Playback, exterior, various locations near Sea Haven College, night. Lauren, taking Truman by the hand, runs down various streets and paths through the campus. She occasionally pauses and looks about her, often changing direction or looking up at the street lights and the towers of houses along their route, as if trying to elude an unseen pursuer. The excited and apprehensive Truman runs with her, although he is unsure exactly who or what they're running from. The further they get from the campus, the higher, wider, and less effective the coverage of the scene. Some camera angles are even partially obscured. Playback, exterior highway, western end of town, night. Truman and Lauren eventually cross an empty highway to the edge of town. They run over the dunes onto a strangely deserted beach and down to the water's edge under a hyper-real full moon. Lauren throws off her cardigan and hitches up her skirt, wading out into the inviting water without another thought. Truman stares down, transfixed by the shimmering water. You're muted.
It's beautiful. What are you waiting for?
I can't.
Lauren suddenly stops splashing.
That's right. Oh, God, I'm sorry.
She wades out of the water.
Why? You got nothing to be sorry about.
Lauren, dripping wet, stands beside Truman at the shoreline. She meets his gaze.
My name's not Lauren. It's Sylvia.
Truman looks into her eyes and believes her. Truman wipes the water from her face, then leans forward and gently kisses her lips. She kisses him back. Interior, a bar somewhere, night. In a quiet bar room, a waitress explains her viewpoint to the barman. A patron on a bar stool eavesdrops.
Don't you get it? She was willing to lose him, lose everything, if it meant he could find himself. Never mind, you wouldn't understand.
Playback, exterior beach night. As we return to Truman's reminiscence, Truman and Sylvia, as she is now called throughout the remainder of the movie, sit on the sand at the water's edge. With great delicacy, Truman traces the outline of her nose with his finger, at the same time inhaling her scent. Sylvia looks nervously around her. Truman goes to say something, but Sylvia hushes him.
Shh. They're coming any minute.
Ooh,
They're going to stop me from talking to you.
there's no one here.
Just listen. You remember when you were a little boy, you stood up in class and you said you wanted to be an explorer, like Magellan.
How do you know about that?
And your teacher said, "You're too late, Truman. there's nothing left to explore.
Were you? How do you know?
It doesn't matter. Everybody knows about it. They know everything you do. The point is, you got scared.
I don't understand.
You must listen. Everybody's pretending, Truman.
She points to the sky and scoops up the sea at her feet.
You think this is real? It's all for you. A show. There are eyes everywhere. They're watching you right now.
Suddenly, a car's headlights come bouncing over the dunes. A car roars across the beach toward the couple.
I told you, Truman.
The car skids to a stop and a large 40-ish man with a shock of red hair jumps from the car. The man yanks the frightened Sylvia to her feet, causing her cardigan to fall to the ground.
Orange, sweetheart, not again. Get in the car.
Truman jumps in.
Hey, who the hell are you?
I'm her father.
We weren't doing anything.
He's not my father. He's just saying that. Does he look anything like me?
Orange, sweetheart.
The man gently but firmly pushes Sylvia toward the car. Sylvia resists. Truman crosses to them.
I'll take care of her.
The man takes Truman aside and whispers in his ear.
Schizophrenia. She has episodes.
Doubts
start crowding into Truman's head.
Don't listen to him, Truman. I'm telling the truth.
Don't bother. We're moving to Fiji. The Fiji Islands. This place has done something to her head.
Interior, a dimly lit room somewhere. Night, present. Christof stares intently into camera. Beside him is his assistant, Chloe, an androgynous-looking young woman. She stares also into the camera.
At least he didn't say New York City.
Playback, exterior beach, night. Truman stares after the car as it roars away. He turns back toward the ocean where his attention is caught by an object lying in the sand. Sylvia's cardigan. Interior, Truman's basement, night, present. Truman carefully places the cardigan back into the trunk. Interior, a kitchen somewhere, night. Mother, daughter, and baby stare into camera.
But why didn't he just follow her to Fiji?
Because her mother got sick, very sick. He couldn't leave her. He's a kind boy, maybe too kind.
Can't believe he married Meryl on the rebound.
Interior, basement, night. Truman turns his attention to the framed photograph of Meryl that he carries everywhere. Hidden behind her photo is a composite picture of Sylvia, which Truman has constructed by pasting together individual facial features, nose, mouth, ears, chin, hair, gathered presumably from women's magazines. He attempts to put the jigsaw puzzle together, although he has particular difficulty finding a pair of eyes that match. From his pocket, he takes a recent collection of eyes, which, like a detective working on an identikit picture, tries to match. They're still not quite right. Interior apartment somewhere, night. The eyes of a young woman, blue-green eyes. She turns slightly, looking directly into camera. We pull back to reveal her face. Sylvia. Exterior, Truman Street, early morning. Dawn breaks over Truman Street. On cue, the sound of birds. Exterior street outside Truman's house, morning. Truman leaves the house lost in thought. Spencer is taking out the trash.
How's it going, Truman?
Truman hardly acknowledges Spencer. Pluto, the dog, fails to receive his usual pat. The wave from the Washingtons across the street is also not returned. Interior, exterior, car, street, outside Truman's house, day. Truman motors down the street, switching on the car radio as usual. Don't forget to buckle up out there in Radio Land. It's another glorious morning, Sea Haven, folks. The announcer's voice slows down, now revealing itself to be a tape that has worn out. Truman, perplexed, looks at the radio and pushes buttons in an attempt to find another station. He finds one.
West on Stewart. He's making a right on Holden.
Truman glances up at the street signs along his route and finds that they correspond exactly with the streets quoted on the radio. Distracted, he almost bowls over an old lady on a crosswalk.
God, he almost hit Maryland. He's on the move again, passing the light bearer.
Truman readjusts the radio as it starts to fade out. Suddenly, there's a piercing blast of feedback. He looks up, and as far as the eye can see, every pedestrian, motorist, and shopkeeper along the street suddenly winces in pain and holds their right ear at exactly the same moment.
Something wrong. Change frequencies.
Truman tries to pick up the channel once again, but without success. Exterior parking lot morning. Truman sits in his car drinking his coffee, taking in the recent incident. From inside the adjacent school, he hears the familiar excited squeals and chatter of school children. Truman suddenly throws aside his coffee and sprints across the parking lot and into the school. Interior Sea Haven Elementary School morning. Truman slams through the front doors into the reception area. It is deserted. No one is stationed at the administration desk. The corridor is empty. He runs down a vacant corridor, finally standing outside a classroom. The children's voices can still be heard from inside. Truman bursts through the door. The room is empty, save for a large reel-to-reel tape recorder on the teacher's desk playing a continuous tape of children's voices. The recorder is attached to speakers on tall stands facing the ventilation ducts. Truman stares at the machine in disbelief. Exterior, street downtown day. Truman, still lost in thought, exits the school. He stops at the newsstand and picks up a magazine to resume his ritual search, but his heart is not in it. He replaces the magazine without taking a cutting, much to the surprise of the news vendor. Truman starts his trek to work, pausing to stare at his reflection in the mirrored building, hoping that the homeless man will appear once again at his side. No one joins him. Entering his own building with fellow office workers, Truman remains in the revolving door and reemerges on the street. Truman wanders aimlessly through the city park, observing. We sense truly observing for the first time. A young woman walks a pair of Afghan hounds. An old man answers the innocent questions of a grandchild. Nothing appears amiss. Truman takes a seat at a small outdoor cafe. He fidgets with his father's ring on his finger that contains one large stone, still looking for a false move. A delivery man unloads boxes from the back of his truck and carries them into a store. Further down the street, construction workers take their time tending to an electrical repair in an exposed manhole. A postal worker does his rounds. An old woman struggles with 2 heavy shopping bags. Everybody appears natural. Places to go. Interior, a dimly lit room somewhere. Day. Christof and Chloe stare into camera. Christof leans forward and speaks.
Everybody, stay focused. Remember who you are.
Exterior cafe day. Truman turns his attention to a group of Cuban-looking men at the only other occupied table at the cafe. We see extreme close-ups as Truman scans the men's faces for any sign of phoniness. They're talking loudly, making suggestive comments to the waitress. Their behavior passes the test. All seems genuine. Then Truman notices 2 joggers out for a morning run, making their way down the street towards him. Truman happens to glance at the sneakers of one of the joggers. He suddenly springs to his feet. Truman blocks the joggers.
It's you, isn't it?
The joggers attempt to sidestep Truman.
Excuse me.
Wait, look, remember, 2 days ago, I gave you my meatball sandwich in the park. You were in a wheelchair. Same sneakers.
The jogger looks down at his distinctive sneakers bearing the initials TS and visibly blanches.
Get the hell out of here.
A second jogger roughly shoves Truman aside. Truman calls out after the 2 men.
It's a miracle!
Truman picks himself up, dusting dirt from his suit. He retrieves his briefcase and continues down the street with renewed purpose. Exterior downtown street day. Wandering down the bustling street, Truman suddenly bolts into a building at random. Interior office building day. An imposing office building clad in the kind of reflective glass that shields its occupants from the world, a building Truman passes every day. A steady stream of employees and visitors enter and exit the building's high-ceiling lobby past an intimidating security desk manned by 2 uniformed guards. Beyond security are banks of elevators, ferrying executives, clerical staff, and delivery personnel to and from the floors of business. Truman abruptly enters reception and strides confidently past the security desk, trying to look as if he belongs.
Can I help you?
I have an appointment at Gable Enterprises.
They went bust.
The second security guard is rising from his seat to block Truman's path to the elevators, but Truman reads his mind and makes a dash for it, into one of the elevators. A young woman in the elevator looks in horror at Truman, the cause of her concern all too apparent. Looking beyond the woman, Truman discovers that there is no back to the elevator car. The people Truman has just witnessed entering other elevators are milling around a refreshment table, primping, or sitting on folding chairs. Gradually, they all turn to gape at Truman, who in turn stares back appalled. Truman's view is abruptly blocked as a rear panel is hastily attached to the elevator. A security guard pulls Truman from the car.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Truman observes the upward progress of the elevator via the light display above the doorway. Before he has time to make sense of it, the guards drag him away.
You've got to leave.
The guards frog march Truman out of the facade toward the emergency exit.
Just tell me what's going on.
We're remodeling.
No, you're not. What are those people doing in there?
None of my business. None of yours either.
You don't tell me what's really going on, I'll report you.
Truman continues to struggle as the guards usher him to the street.
For what? You're trespassing.
Exterior downtown street day. Truman continues to struggle as the guards unceremoniously dump him on the pavement. He picks himself up, head reeling, and starts to run along the street. He suddenly enters another building at random, an office block with a bank on the ground floor. Truman rushes to the elevators. The lights above the doors show all the elevators on upper floors. Frantic pressing of the elevator button gets no response. A receptionist rises from her desk. Truman heads for the stairs, but is intercepted by a bank official barring his way.
Want to...
The bank official, the receptionist, and the bank teller back Truman towards the door.
Open an account.
Yes, why not?
Savings or checking?
Let's go up to my office.
Truman hurriedly exits the bank. Exterior street day. Back on the street, Truman feels the eyes of the pedestrians. Is he simply drawing attention to himself by his behavior? Truman wheels around, trying to make eye contact with passersby. They shy away. He continues to run down the street. Finally, Truman finds himself standing in front of the window of an electronics store, staring at his own face on a TV set. It is taking a feed from a camcorder aimed out the store window. Interior, a bathroom somewhere, day. A man stares into camera from a bath of stale water, a layer of soap scum on the top.
Don't look at me, pal.
Exterior street, electronics store day. Truman shudders at his video reflection. Further down the street, he notices Marlon's van parked outside a supermarket. Interior supermarket day. The door of a vending machine is open. Marlon, half inside the machine, loads a stack of Baby Ruth candy bars into one of the dispensing slots. The paranoid Truman appears at his shoulder.
Marlon!
Truman, what are you doing here?
Truman looks nervously around. Even the store's owner friendly nods from behind the counter and is sure there's cause for suspicion in Truman's mind.
I've got you.
I'm sorry, I'm way behind.
I'm onto something, Marlon. Something big.
Are you okay? You look like shit.
I think I'm mixed up in something.
Mixed up? Mixed up in what?
There's no point in trying to explain. There's a lot of strange things have been happening. Elevators that don't go anywhere. People talking about me on the radio. You know what I mean?
No. Truman, if this is another one of your fantasies.
I think it's got something to do with my dad.
Your dad?
I think he's alive. I'll tell you all about it later, but I'm definitely being followed.
Who?
It's hard to tell. They look just like regular people.
How about them?
Could be. It looks phony. It's when I'm unpredictable. I can't stand that. That's why I've got to get out of here. Can you come with me?
I told you I can't.
I've got to show you something.
Truman fixes Marlon with a look of deadly seriousness.
Christ, Truman, you're gonna get both our asses fired.
Exterior Sea Haven Elementary School day. Truman hurries Marlon up the school steps. The sound of children's voices continue to drift out from inside the building. Truman and Marlon storm into the school reception area, still empty. Interior school corridor day. Truman and Marlon stand outside the classroom, the source of the children's voices. Truman throws his friend an "I told you so" look and swings open the door with a flourish. Interior classroom day. The once empty classroom is now full of school children in an art class. A hush falls over the students, and all eyes turn to Truman and Marlon.
Would you care to join us?
Exterior clifftop dusk. Hand over hand, Truman climbs the cliff he once scaled as a 7-year-old. Finally, he sits on the clifftop, staring out at the view his father had been so desperate for him not to see 26 years earlier. However, the deserted bay beyond is identical to its neighbor. Marlon, laboring, crests the rise and joins his friend on the clifftop.
What are we doing here, Truman?
That's where it started.
What exactly?
Things that don't fit. Maybe I'm being set up for something. You ever feel like that, Marlon? Like your whole life has been building to something.
No.
When you were hauling chickens for Kaiser Poultry, what was the furthest you ever went off the island?
I went all over, but I never found a place like this. Look at that sunset, Truman. It's perfect.
Yeah.
That's the big guy. Quite a paintbrush he's got.
Just between you and me, Marlon. Going away for a while.
Really?
Interior living room, Truman's house, night. Truman sits cramped on his sofa. Pulling wider, we discover the cause of his discomfort. He is sandwiched between Meryl on one side and his mother on the other. Mother, the family historian, a stack of photograph albums at her feet, turns the pages of an album on Truman's lap.
We gotta be getting you back, Mother.
Hold on a minute here. Here's us in Mount Rushmore. You remember, Truman, when Dad was still with us? It was quite a drive. You slept all the way there.
So small.
Things always do when you look back.
Mother skips several pages in the album, finally stopping at a spread of wedding photos.
Look, Truman, there's my cousin Errol putting the bouquet down his pants. It was the happiest day of our lives.
Didn't she look beautiful, Truman? She still does.
Mother turns to a blank page in the album.
And there's plenty of room for baby photos. I'd like to hold a grandchild in my arms. Before I go.
Meryl rises from the sofa and helps Mother to her walker.
I'll take you home, Angela. Why don't you leave these with us for a while?
Good night, Mother.
See you in a minute, sweetheart.
Meryl departs with Mother. Left alone in the living room, Truman slumps back down onto the sofa and switches on the television set, an old-fashioned model with rabbit ears. He idly studies the photograph album as an over-earnest television host announces the upcoming program.
Tonight's Golden Oldies is the enduring much-loved classic Show Me the Way Home, a hymn of praise to small-town life where we learn that you don't have to leave home to discover what the world is all about, and that no one is poor who has friends.
However, when we turn our attention away from the television, we find that Truman is peering intently at a wedding photograph of Meryl and himself taking their vows in a civil ceremony in a beachside gazebo. Under the scrutiny of a magnifying glass, he discovers that Meryl has her fingers crossed. Interior, a living room somewhere, night. The two ladies sit at their sofa, a rug across their knees, sipping a nightcap of hot chocolate. They stare into the camera.
Remember at the wedding, that dog?
Started howling when they took their vows.
And the plastic horseshoe fell off when they cut the cake.
They never had a chance.
Interior kitchen, morning. Truman, dressed casually in weekend attire, is at the stove preparing an omelet. Meryl hurries into the kitchen in her nurse's uniform. She gulps down a cup of coffee and reaches for her nurse's cap. However, she still has time to adjust the position of a pack of Vibracon cereal, squaring it a little more to the camera.
I have to talk to you. Not here. Let's go for a walk.
I'm sorry, I'm late.
What's the hurry?
Surgery. The elevator disaster downtown on the news last night. Cable snapped. A car dropped 10 floors. Non-union contractors. Monsters. We're starting with an amputation.
Truman's eyes widen. Meryl adjusts her hat in the mirror.
That building's near yours. Imagine if you'd been in there for some reason. It doesn't bear thinking about.
Truman, lost in thought, picks up the scalding frying pan with his bare hand, letting out a howl of pain as he drops the pan.
Oh my God.
What do you?
I don't know.
You're a nurse, aren't you?
Put some butter on it? Or maybe ice.
She looks up the kitchen clock.
Oh, look at the time.
Truman stares after her, the pain of his hand forgotten for a moment. He watches Meryl ride her bicycle down the driveway. Truman exits the house. Exterior Sea Haven Street Hospital parking lot day. Riding a bicycle of his own, Truman follows Meryl to work, staying a safe distance back. He watches her enter the hospital. Interior hospital day. Truman makes his way along various corridors. All seems as it should. Doctors confer with nursing staff and patients. Gurneys are wheeled about with their passengers looking suitably traumatized. Truman approaches the nursing sister.
Hi, I'm looking for my wife, Nurse Burbank. It's important.
Oh, gosh, I'm afraid that's impossible. She's in pre-op.
Sure. Okay, fine. Can you pass along a message?
I'll try.
Tell her I had to go to Fiji, and I will call her when I get there.
When you get to Fiji.
You got it.
Fine, I'll tell her.
The nurse walks off, disappearing through a set of doors. Truman hesitates before following her. Interior various corridors in the hospital. The nurse walks briskly, fewer people about, Truman discreetly following behind. The nurse breaks into a jog. Truman hurries to keep up with her, dodging around gurneys, janitors mopping floors. Interior outside operating theater day. The nurse, hastily scrubbed and gowned, enters the theater. Truman hesitates but dares not enter. He grabs a mask of his own. Looking through the glass window in the operating theater door, he sees the young woman, seen in the hastily fixed elevator car the day before, lying on the operating table, a blood-soaked bandage covering her left leg. Meryl, wearing a surgical gown and mask, assists the surgeon. The sister hovers nervously in the background.
Scalpel.
Meryl very slowly selects a scalpel from a tray of instruments and awkwardly hands it to the surgeon.
I'm now making my primary incision just above the left knee.
The patient's eyes blink open in horror. The anesthetist steps in Truman's view before he can get a good look. Suddenly, a security guard appears behind Truman and takes him by the arm.
This isn't going to be pretty. Unless you're family of the patient, I'll have to ask you to leave.
That's no problem. I don't want to cause any trouble.
Interior travel agency day. Truman takes a seat at the only desk in an empty travel agency. All travel brochures and posters that adorn the walls all feature destinations that bear a striking similarity to picturesque Sea Haven. Another poster spells out the dangers of travel. Travelers beware, terrorists, disease, wild animals, street gangs. A female travel agent enters from the rear door.
I'm sorry to keep you. How can I help?
I want to book a flight to Fiji.
Where exactly?
Fiji.
Where in Fiji? What island?
I'm sorry, the biggest one?
Vitiligo. For how many?
One?
When do you want to leave? Remembering, of course, you do lose a day on the way there.
Today.
I'm sorry, I don't have anything for at least a month.
A month?
It's the busy season.
You're a travel agent, aren't you? Doris? Your job was to help people travel.
I do have a fabulous rate on a cruise ship departing for Fiji tomorrow, but you wouldn't want to do that.
Why wouldn't I?
I thought you were in a hurry.
That's right.
Do you want to book the flight?
Doesn't matter. I'll make other arrangements.
Exterior city street day. Emerging onto the street, Truman looks across to the building which he had entered the previous day. It is now cordoned off with police tape after the elevator disaster. Flowers have been laid at the doorway. Exterior Greyhound bus station day. A Greyhound bus, bound for Chicago according to its destination sign, sits idling at the stop. Just as a burly supervisor is about to wave the bus on its way, Truman dashes into the station.
Last call for Chicago.
Truman jumps onto the bus behind the last boarding passenger, a young soldier.
Windy City. Here we come.
Interior Greyhound bus day. Truman takes a seat by a window. An awkward silence descends over the bus. The other passengers, a mother with a restless child, several tourists, an old couple, and the young soldier, all stare stiffly straight ahead, averting their eyes from Truman. No one is more uncomfortable than the bus driver. Beads of perspiration on his head, he fumbles for the gear shift, apparently unsure how to operate it. The gears grind. The other passengers try not to notice. The child, tugging her mother's sleeve, points to Truman. Her mother makes her face the front of the bus. Finally, the supervisor enters the bus.
Everybody off, we got a problem.
The relieved passengers hurriedly exit until Truman is the only one remaining on the bus. The bus driver looks almost sorry for Truman, who sits resolutely in his seat, the hint of a tear of frustration in his eyes.
I'm sorry, son.
Interior, a bar somewhere, day. The bar seen earlier. A small group of patrons discuss developments. The waitress seems upset, occasionally glancing to camera as she pours the beer.
Why would he want to go to Chicago? Who does he know from there? His doctor came from Chicago, didn't he? Or wasn't his father from Chicago?
He's not going to Chicago. He's not going anywhere. He has to have it out with Meryl.
Exterior street, Truman's bicycle, day. As Truman rides home on his bicycle, he stares wildly about him. The rearview mirror on his bicycle is suddenly cause for concern. So are the trees and street lamps lining the roadway. Exterior, Truman's backyard, day. Truman, staring at the highway from the bottom of the garden, doesn't bother to look up as Meryl, still wearing her nurse's uniform, approaches.
See that car way down there? That's a Subaru station wagon.
Meryl looks idly over the fence at the approaching car. Finally, a Subaru station wagon motors by. Meryl is unimpressed. Truman turns his back on the highway to continue his game.
I predict the next 4 cars will be a white Honda Civic, a blue and white Dodge Dart with the front hubcap missing, a Volkswagen Beetle with a dented fender, and a motorcycle.
Meryl doesn't wish to participate in the game and makes for the house. Truman holds her arm, forcing her to watch. He turns back to check his prediction. A convoy of cars approaches.
Honda, the Dodge. Here comes the dented Beetle.
Meryl's attention wavers. Truman tightens his grip.
Look!
Following, the Volkswagen is a school bus.
Where's the motorcycle?
Truman is momentarily disappointed.
Don't you want to know how I did that?
A motorcycle putters by. Meryl turns and walks back to the house. He hurries after her.
I invited Marlon and Rita for a barbecue Sunday. I thought I'd make my potato salad. Remind me?
I'm not gonna be here Sunday.
We need more charcoal.
Are you listening to a word I'm saying?
You're upset because you want to go to Fiji, is that it?
Truman is puzzled by her conciliatory tone.
Okay, do it. Get it out of your system. Save for a few months and go. There. Happy now? I'm going to take a shower.
She turns away.
Let's go now.
What?
Despite her protests, Truman drags Meryl towards his car.
I'm ready to go now. Why wait?
Interior, Truman's car, day. Truman holds Meryl's wrist to stop her exiting the car and accelerates out of the driveway in reverse without looking, almost running over Pluto, the dog, and Spencer with his garbage can. Truman starts circling a gazebo at the center of a roundabout, faster and faster.
Where shall we go? Where shall we go? Spontaneity is what it's all about. Forget Fiji. We can't very well drive to Fiji, can we? What about Atlantic City?
You hate gambling.
That's right. I do, don't I?
So where do you want to go?
Because I never have. That's why you go places, isn't it?
Truman, I think I'm going to throw up.
Truman roars off down the street.
Me too.
Almost immediately, Truman encounters a traffic snarl.
So much traffic this time of day. Doesn't that strike you as peculiar?
Without warning, Truman suddenly dives down a side street. But his move is anticipated. At the end of the street, a pack of cars suddenly appears. Other vehicles fill the gap behind.
Blocked at every turn. Beautifully synchronized, don't you agree?
You're blaming me for the traffic?
Should I?
Truman reverses suddenly, makes a U-turn.
You're right. We'd be stuck here for hours. Could be like this all the way to Atlantic City. Let's go back. I'm sorry. Don't know what got into me.
Truman starts heading back the way they came, the roadway now relatively free of traffic.
Would you please slow down, Truman?
Truman floors the car. The car flies past their house.
Truman, that was our house.
I've changed my mind again. What's New Orleans like this time of year? Mardi Gras! Woo! Let's see where the road takes us.
Let me out, Truman. You're not right in the head. You want to destroy yourself. You do it on your own.
I think I'd like a little company.
As he speeds erratically, Truman glances at the streets on either side of the main road, where he discovers a distinct lack of moving traffic.
Look, Meryl, no cars. I don't run into traffic. The traffic follows me around. We're in a moving pack. Don't you see?
Interior, exterior, Truman's car, bridge, day. But Truman's clear path is short-lived. He is forced to slow once again behind a line of other cars at the bridge.
And it's hard to go places, isn't it?
There's been an accident, Truman.
There's no accident. It's just more stalling.
Truman floors the car again and swerves onto the oncoming lane. He roars along the bridge on the wrong side of the road. Near the end of the bridge, a distraught motorist dashes into the middle of the road, waving his arms. Truman slams on the brakes.
Is there a doctor or a nurse?
Truman, it's a child. I've got to help.
He'll be fine.
Truman roars on, almost bowling over the concerned motorist.
Truman, I took the hypocrite oath.
I bet you did.
Truman roars past the sign that says, "You are now leaving Sea Haven. Are you sure that's a good idea?" Back at the adjacent scene, the little boy, apparently uninjured, sits up. Interior, exterior car, day. They roar past an illuminated sign. Forest fire warning, extreme danger.
Truman, what about that sign?
I'm sure they're just exaggerating.
Suddenly, a 20-foot high wall of flame shoots across the roadway in front of them, as if someone flicked on a gas switch.
What about that? Do you believe that?
Truman experiences his first moment of doubt. He looks to the terrified Meryl, then closes his eyes tightly and accelerates through the firewall. He is startled to find out that they have emerged on the other side, singed but unscathed. However, the open road in front of them now disturbs Truman for a different reason. Its sheer lack of anything unusual. Signs along the road advertise motels and give directions to other destinations. I-6211, 2 miles. No-tell motel, pool, color TV. Meryl also now appears to be resigned to the journey.
So what did we do for money when we get to New Orleans?
Got my Sea Haven bank card.
So we just eat into our savings? Is that the idea? I better call your mother when we get there. She'll be worried sick. I don't know how she's going to take this.
Truman appears very unsure of himself. Exterior roadway day. However, there is still a barrier between Truman and Bourbon Street. The highway leading to the Cloverleaf Freeway junction in the distance is completely blocked off by Sea Haven police cars. No way past. Nuclear silos in the distance spew out an ominous puff of smoke. A sign reads, "Sea Haven Island Nuclear Power Station. Clean, safe, economical. More power to you." Truman is forced to slow at the police barricade.
Now what?
But you get the plant. They had to shut her down.
Is there any way around?
Whole area is being evacuated.
Well, thank you for your help.
You're welcome, Truman.
Truman's eyes widen at the mention of his name from an apparent stranger. As the officer turns, Truman bolts from the car, leaving Meryl in the passenger seat.
Truman, come back!
Truman flees into the forest. Interior, a living room somewhere, day. The two old ladies we have observed before are almost overcome with tension. One lady reaches out for her companion's hand. Exterior, forest near Sea Haven, nuclear power plant, day. Truman bursts past the alien-looking hazardous water workers and their protective suits carrying detection instruments. The workers give chase in their cumbersome suits, trying to cut off his path. Nearing the edge of the forest, Truman hears the sounds of hammers and saws. But before he has time to see the source of the sound, he is tackled to the ground. As Sea Haven police officers drag him away, one of the waste workers walks the remaining few yards, pushing aside a wall of tropical foliage. We now see that what Truman was prevented from seeing. A Polynesian island is under construction by dozens of riggers, painters, and set decorators. Large cranes are lifting palm trees into place. A fake volcano is being tested in the distance. and rehearsals for a firewalking ceremony are underway, complete with hot coals, drummers, and firewalkers in native dress. The wings and fuselage of an airliner are being constructed on a hydraulic gimbal. Leading into one side of the airliner is a converted walkway emblazoned with a sign, Sea Haven Island Departures. Emerging from the opposite side of the airliner is an old-fashioned airline stairway with a sign, Welcome to Fiji. At the foot of the steps, two women, a Fijian dress, are being shown the correct way to present a floral lei.
Did he see us?
Negative.
Interior Truman's house kitchen night. Meryl shows two Sea Haven policemen out the back door.
Thank you.
Oh, you are lucky he's not glowing man. Next time, we'll have to file charges.
Meryl joins Truman at the kitchen table. Truman applauds ironically.
Let me get you some help, Truman. You're not well.
Why do you want to have a child with me? You can't stand me.
That's not true.
Meryl picks up a package and holds it to the camera.
Why don't I make you some of this all-new mocha coca drink? It's all-natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mount Nicaragua. No artificial sweeteners.
Who are you talking to? What the hell are you talking about?
I've tasted other cocos. This is the best.
Truman rises from the table and backs her around the room.
What the hell has that got to do with anything? Tell me what's happening!
You're having a nervous breakdown. That's what's happening.
You're part of this, aren't you? Aren't you?
Meryl grabs the chef's mate from a counter to protect herself. She points the potato peeler at him.
Truman, you're scaring me.
Truman looks into her eyes and with surprising swiftness grabs her wrist and disarms her.
You're scaring me, Meryl.
Truman grabs Meryl and turns the chef's mate on her. He stares wildly about him.
Stop this now. I'll do it, I swear!
Do something.
Upon hearing her remark, Truman's eyes widen. Sensing that she too is addressing a third person, he jerks her head around to read her face.
Who are you talking to?
You're the one talking to the walls.
No, you said do something. You were talking. Who are you talking to? Tell me!
Truman, stop it!
Suddenly, the front door chimes.
Right on time. Cops must be telepathic.
Truman grabs his peeler and marches Meryl down the hallway to the front door. The doorbell chimes a second and third time more insistently.
Stay where you are.
Truman, it's me, Marlon. I need to talk to you.
Truman flinches. He was so convinced it would be the police. He takes a step back against the hallway wall. Before he can decide what to do, Marlon has opened the unlocked front door to be concerned with the sight of Truman holding the peeler to Meryl's throat. Marlon locks eyes with Truman. Sizing up the situation, he slowly but decisively removes the peeler from Truman's hand. Meryl wrenches herself free from Truman's now limp grasp and collapses into Marlon's arms, sobbing.
How can anyone expect me to carry on under these circumstances? This is unprofessional.
Exterior unfinished bridge night. Marlon and Truman, both nursing bottles of beer, sit on the end of the unfinished bridge.
I don't know what to think, Marlon. Maybe I'm out of my mind, but I get the feeling that the world revolves around me somehow.
It's a lot of world for one man. You sure that's not wishful thinking? You wishing you'd made something more of yourself? Christ, Truman, who hasn't sat on the John and had an imaginary interview on Sea Haven tonight? Who hasn't wanted to be somebody?
This is different. Everybody seems to be in on it.
Marlon looks around as if drawing inspiration from somewhere in the night.
True, we've known each other since before we were in long pants. The only way we ever made it through high school was cheating off each other's test papers. Jesus, they were identical. I always liked that because whatever the answer was,
Truman chimes in, nodding fondly at the memory.
we were right together,
Together and
and we were wrong together.
together.
The only night either of us ever spent in jail, we spent together, and I wet myself, but you never told me. I was best man at your wedding, and my brother was best man at my wedding, and you didn't talk to me for a month over that. And I didn't blame you because you've been more of a brother to me than he ever has been.
Truman is slowly coming around. Marlon's speech from the heart soothing his pain away.
I know things haven't worked out for either of us, like we used to sit up on Monroe Avenue all night and dream they would. We all let opportunities pass us by. None of us ask for the dance as often as we should. I know that feeling when it's like everything's slipping away and you don't want to believe it, so you look for answers someplace else. But, well, the point is, I would gladly step in front of traffic for you.
Interior control room night. Christof stares intently into camera, holding his distinctive earpiece to his head. Beside him, his ever-present assistant, Chloe.
And the last thing I'd ever do is lie to you.
Exterior freeway night.
And the last thing I'd ever do is lie to you. I mean, think about it, Truman. If everybody's in on it, I'd have to be in on it too. I'm not in on it because there is no it.
So what are you saying? Marlon, the whole thing has been in my head?
Not the whole thing, Truman. You were right about one thing.
What's that?
The thing that started all this.
Truman looks up in the direction of Marlon's gaze. A figure stands at the end of the freeway. A homeless man. It is his father, Kirk.
Yes, he survived somehow. He's got quite a story to tell.
Marlon helps Truman to his feet. Truman still transfixed by the figure.
Go to him.
Interior control room night. Christof continues to direct the action from what is now revealed to be the control room of a television studio.
Go wide. Light cam 8.
In a wide shot from one of the streetlights lining the empty freeway, we see Truman walking towards his long-lost father.
Car cam 12. And cue music. Beethoven, Third Symphony, second movement.
Music swells. Kirk and Truman embrace in the middle of the freeway. Truman takes his father's ring from his own finger.
Ring cam.
We see a close-up of Kirk from the ring's point of view. Truman places the ring in the palm of his father's hand.
Bottom cam 3.
We see a close-up of Truman from a camera on Kirk's coat.
I never stopped believing.
Son.
And wide.
Simeon looks to his director.
Close up.
Nope. Hold back.
The crew watches Kirk and Truman embrace.
All those years wasted.
Who's ahead?
Interior control room night. Christof allows himself a smile of satisfaction.
And fade up music. Now go in. Close.
As a tight two-shot of the father and son fills the screen, the orchestra swells with triumphant music. Exterior freeway night. Father and son remain in the embrace. Over Truman's shoulder, we see a flash of guilt flicker across Marlon's face. Interior control room night. Christof, emotionally drained by the events, slumps in his chair. Chloe rests a supportive hand on his shoulder. The head of the network, Moses, a man in his 70s, enters with his young assistant, Roman, their faces full of admiration.
Well done, everyone.
Interior, a bedroom somewhere, night. A young woman reclines on a bed, her back against the wall. Propped up on her knees is a book. However, she's not reading, but staring straight into camera, a look of profound sadness on her face. It is Sylvia. From her point of view, we see a portable television set on a table at the end of her bed. On the television is a live picture of Truman, the first time we have seen him on a television screen. He is sitting at his kitchen table, unaware of the cameras recording him. The shot is static. He just sits there in silence, a streaming cup of coffee in front of him, and a plate of untouched cookies. At one point, a sponsor's border appears on the screen, tastefully framing the action with the message, Macoca coca beans, from the upper slopes of Mount Nicaragua. After several seconds of the border disappears. Suddenly, the live picture of Truman shrinks into a window on the screen to accommodate a title sequence that begins to play around the edges of the image. The Truman Show theme music begins. The camera cranes up and over the Hollywood sign, a flat lands of Burbank stretching into the distance. From the network that never sleeps, broadcasting live and unedited, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week around the globe. During this continuous aerial shot, overlapping scenes from Truman's life appear in chronological order, from infancy to adolescence and finally adulthood. Photographs of leading cast members also appear in individual frames. With Hannah Gill as Meryl Burbank, Louis Coltrane as Marlon, Alanis Montclair as Mother, reintroducing Walter Moore as her husband, Kirk. The music swells as the camera approaches a mammoth structure at the base of the mountains, a dome so vast it dwarfs everything around it. At the top of the dome is a huge painting of Truman's face encircled by satellite dishes. Inside each dish is a single letter spelling out The Truman Show. A banner proclaims 30th great year. And Truman Burbank as himself, taped in the world's largest studio, one of only 2 man-made structures visible from space. Comes the longest running documentary soap opera in history. Now in its 30th great year, The Truman Show. The camera rushes toward the outside wall of the gigantic dome bathed in sunlight. When we emerge on the other side, it is night. The camera cranes up from a calm moonlit ocean to the night sky above. As we near the crescent-shaped moon, we discover that it's actually a window overlooking Sea Haven. Standing in the crater window is the suited Christof. Interior lunar studio night. Pulling back from the window, we reveal an interviewer, mid-40s, conservative suit and hair. A large television shows a live picture of Truman immersed in his book.
I'm your host, Mike Michelson, coming to you live from the Lunar Room on the 121st story of the Omnicam Ecosphere, 2,800 feet above Sea Haven Island. Tonight, a special edition of True Talk, the forum where we discuss and analyze recent events on the show. We are honored to bring you a rare and exclusive interview with the show's conceiver, creator, televisionaire, the man in the moon himself, Christof. I remind viewers that as the Truman Show is a living history, it is our practice to keep the image of Truman on screen at all times.
The title appears. Due to the live and unedited nature of the program, viewer discretion is advised. The interviewer turns to Christof.
Welcome.
Thank you.
The catalyst for the recent dramatic events was, of course, Truman's father, Kirk, and his infiltration onto the show. Before we discuss that, it's worth reminding viewers that this isn't the first time someone from the outside world has tried to reach Truman.
We've had our close calls in the past.
Behind the 2 men, the constantly playing image of Truman engrossed in his book is relegated to a window of the screen. Playback. Interior Truman's home Christmas morning. Truman, 7, is opening presents under the tree. Kirk and Mother proudly looking on.
Who can forget the infamous Christmas present incident in the 7th season?
Suddenly, a small man bursts from a large Christmas parcel. Kirk and the man grapple on the floor in front of a stunned 7-year-old. Kirk drags him away. Playback. Exterior City Street day. As the adult Truman makes his way to work, a parachutist drops from the sky into the main street, only yards behind him.
And only last summer, Billy Blackbird made his 3rd attempt, leaping from a lighting gantry.
The parachutist is dressed entirely in black with a message emblazoned on his chest. Truman, you're on TV. Commuters grab the man and drag him away. Truman blissfully unaware of the incident.
These people have their own agendas. Many just want to be on television themselves.
Playback. Exterior City Street day. The encounter between Truman and the homeless man, Kirk, is replayed up to the point where Kirk is bundled onto the bus.
Of course, there hasn't been anything to compare with this. The first time an intruder has been a former castman.
A dead one at that.
And certainly the first time that an intruder has been rewarded with a starring role. I really must congratulate you on writing Kirk back in, a masterstroke.
Since Kirk started this whole crisis in Truman's life, I came to the conclusion that he's the only one who could end it.
I understand he's hardly had a life of his own since he left the show. How did you convince him? Was it the opportunity to be close to Truman again?
That and a fat new contract.
How do you intend to explain his 22-year absence?
Amnesia.
Of course.
The interviewer consults his note.
Let's talk ratings. Truman has always enjoyed top 10 status, but the huge surge over the last few days. How do you hope to sustain that audience now that Truman appears to have reconciled himself?
Well, as you know, ratings have never been our primary goal. I imagine we'll lose those voyeurs only interested in witnessing Truman's latest torment. However, I'm certain that our core audience will remain loyal.
But recent events have been so dramatic, it does raise the perennial question. What keeps us watching this one man 24 hours a day, eating, sleeping, working, sitting for hours in contemplation?
It has to be the reality.
During this segment, we cut to a cross-section of viewers, the waitress and the barman at the bar, the two old women on their sofa, the two security guards, and the man in the bath, listening to Christof's theories on their viewing habits.
We've become tired of watching actors give us phony emotions, bored with pyrotechnics and physical special effects, while the world he inhabits is counterfeit. There's nothing fake about Truman himself. No scripts, no cue cards. It's not always Shakespeare, but it's genuine. That's how he can get support in an entire channel.
A window onto the human condition?
I prefer to think of it as a mirror.
At that moment, Truman, still live on the screen, unwittingly punctuates the pretentious remark with a belch. Christof and the interviewer try not to notice.
Not only does he give us a glimpse of the truth, he gives us a glimpse of ourselves.
But how do you account for the popularity of those 8 hours a day when Truman sleeps?
We find many viewers leave him on all night for comfort. Haven't you ever watched your child or your lover sleep?
Let's go to some of those viewers' calls.
The interviewer presses a blinking illuminated button on his desk's high-tech phone terminal. During this segment, various windows open on the screen advertising products from the Truman catalog.
Charlotte, North Carolina for Christof.
Hello?
You're on, caller. Go ahead.
Christof, it's a great honor to speak with you. How much of a strain has the last few days placed on the actors?
Working on Truman has always been a huge commitment for an actor, not just in terms of separation from friends and family, but since Truman essentially drives the plot. It is a never-ending improvisation. Witness Marlo's extraordinary performance in the recent father and son reunion episode.
Are we talking Emmys?
Certainly a nomination.
Of course, Truman has always been very much in on casting.
As with our own lives, the only people he can't cast are his family. Otherwise, he has final approval, able to evaluate an extra in a lead role, as was the case with the only real friend, Marlo, or alternatively relegate a star to a bit player.
Istanbul, Turkey. You're on with master videographer Christof.
Christof, I've admired your work my whole life, although I can't say I've seen it all.
Who can?
Can you settle an argument for me? What's the longest time Truman has been off camera?
In his entire life, 42 minutes, a technical fault in the 12th season. Accounts for most of that time. The remainder generally results from blind spots in the early days when Truman would stray out of range of our cameras.
We should remind viewers that Truman, especially as a child, presented a challenge for the production.
Let me demonstrate some examples.
Footage of Truman as a baby appears on the screen. As a newborn infant held in a pair of anonymous latex-gloved hands, and as a toddler dressed in various baby outfits, on one occasion looking through the bars of his crib.
He was curious from birth, premature by 2 weeks, as if he couldn't wait to get started.
Of course, his eagerness to leave his mother's womb also meant he was the one selected.
In competition with 5 other unwanted pregnancies, the casting of a show determined by an air date, he was the one who arrived on cue.
Who knew that a show originally meant to last 1 year, Bringing Up Baby, would turn into a cradle-to-grave concept? He is, in fact, the first child in the world to be legally adopted by a corporation.
That's correct.
And the show now generates a yearly income equivalent to the gross national product of a small country.
People forget it takes the population of an entire country to keep the show running.
No, of course not. And since the show runs 24 hours a day with no commercial breaks, the staggering profits are all generated from product placement.
Yes, everything you see on the show is for sale, from the actors' wardrobe, food products, to the very homes they live in.
All products carefully chosen and tested by you for quality and aesthetic value.
There's nothing on the show I don't use myself.
And it's all available in the Truman Show catalog. Operators are standing by.
Christof nods.
Why do you feel that Truman's never come close to discovering the true nature of his world?
We accept the reality of the world with which we are presented. As the show expanded, naturally, we were forced to manufacture ways to keep Truman in Sea Haven, demonstrating that every venture is accompanied by a risk.
The 7-year-old Truman we have seen in other flashbacks appears on the screen. Wearing a cowboy outfit, he goes to cross the walkway of a bridge when he is suddenly confronted by a savage dog wearing a spiked collar.
Later, Kirk's drowning made much of this kind of intervention unnecessary.
We freeze on 7-year-old Truman's terrified face.
You've never actually met Truman yourself. Never thought about doing a cameo, playing a veterinarian or a priest, something like that?
I've been tempted, but I think it's important to retain objectivity. I wouldn't want to get emotionally caught.
The Hague for Christof? The Hague? Lost them. Hollywood, California, you're on True Talk.
Hi, yeah, like, how can you say he like lives in like any other, a life like any other? Like, yeah.
As the bard says, all the world's a stage, and all the men's women merely players. The only difference between Truman and ourselves, and the fact that there's annoying dogs in the back, is that his life is more thoroughly documented. He is confronted with the same obstacles and influences that confront us all. He plays his eluded roles as we all do.
He's not a performer. He's a prisoner.
The interviewer goes to cut off the call, but Christof stops him.
And you can tell me, caller, that you're not a player on the stage of life, playing out your allotted role. He can leave at any time. If his was more than just a vague ambition, if he were absolutely determined to discover the truth, there's no way we could prevent him. I think what really distresses you, caller, is that ultimately Truman prefers the comfort of his cell, as you call it.
No, like, you are totally wrong. He'll prove you wrong. He can still do it.
The interviewer
Yeah.
hangs up on the caller. In a darkly lit room, we see Sylvia. It is she who is the confrontational caller, phone still in her hand.
We've learned about life as Truman has, and despite the complaints of a minority, it's been an overwhelmingly positive experience for Truman and for the viewing public.
Let's take another call. London, England, you're on True Talk.
Christof, congratulations on the way you've always handled Truman's sex life, the classical music, soft lighting, and so on. But has the recent violence caused a problem for the show's sponsors?
The sponsors know the risks going in, although we do try to maintain standards, a level of decorum. For instance, I've never put a camera in the toilet.
Still in silhouette, Sylvia turns down the volume on the television, focusing on the window on the screen that displays Truman. She comes close to the screen, catching his melancholy, saddened by his regression. Interior Truman's basement morning. Truman breathes in the scent of Sylvia's sweater one last time before reluctantly replacing it in the trunk, together with his book, To the Ends of the Earth, The Age of Exploration. For the final time, he regards his unfinished picture of Sylvia inside, 2 holes where the eyes should be. As he does so, he finds 2 lost paper cuttings, a pair of eyes on the basement floor. He tries them. Ironically, they fit. The picture completed. He closes the trunk anyway. With a sense of finality, he fastens the lock. Interior control room night. The giant on-air monitor in the control room plays a close-up shot of Truman sleeping. Christof comes close to the monitor and almost touches the screen. As he does so, Truman twitches in his sleep. Interior bathroom morning. Truman wipes the mist from the mirror of the bathroom cabinet and stares into it in a way he never has done before. Interior control room morning. Close-up on the giant on-air monitor in the control room. It displays a wide shot of Truman staring into the bathroom mirror. We slowly pull back to reveal Simeon and the other video operator sitting at a mixing desk arranged in tiers, reminiscent of an auditorium or NASA's mission control. Each mixing desk contains a dozen or so built-in monitors and is designed with a location such as Truman's house, interior, Truman's office, cubicle, Tyrone's deli. The operator at each desk, sitting in a swivel chair and wearing the slimmest of headsets, is responsible for monitoring a particular location. The monitors cover virtually every facet of Truman's life. Camera angles from the interior of Truman's house, his backyard, car, office, the deli he frequents, the seashore to which he is drawn, the unfinished bridge where he golfs with Marlon, many of the locations strangely devoid of people. Simeon, seated in the front row of mixing desks, stares back at Truman's image on the monitor, slightly unnerved.
Is he looking at us?
As if to reassure the technician, Truman begins one of his familiar monologues. He talks to the mirror as if being interviewed.
What are my plans now? Well, next I'm thinking of tackling the Yuba River on an authentic canoe from the Algonquin tribe. I'm talking about the North Fork, a Class 5 rapid, only I'm not going down the Yuba. I'm going up. Do you honestly think for 1 minute I'd go back to some dreary office and rubber stamp meaningless documents? Do you?
Truman, you're gonna be late.
Truman sighs as he exits the bathroom. Exterior street morning. Truman exchanges a cheery greeting with Spencer.
How are you, Truman?
Yeah, inhale, exhale, same old thing.
He waves to the Washingtons across the street. He pets Pluto the dog. Interior office day. Back at work at the insurance company, Truman sits in his cubicle, making another of his cold calls.
42-year-old woman sitting on the second row of an amateur production of Hamlet. Hamlet's dagger slips from his hand and flies into the audience.
A young woman carrying a stack of files catches Truman's eye as she passes. Vivian. She is faintly reminiscent of Sylvia at the same age, even wearing a similar sweater.
What I'm saying is, life is a fragile thing. Hello?
Exterior Truman's backyard desk. Truman wheels his lawnmower, deliberately averting his eyes from the back of the house. Staring out of the kitchen window, a tall glass of iced tea in her hand, Meryl has been anticipating her husband's appearance. She wears a neck brace, we sense more as a reminder to Truman than for any medical benefit she might derive. Feeling Meryl's eyes burning into his back, Truman fires up the motor and heads directly towards the symbolically uncut section of grass. We focus on the errant blades of the grass as they are severed by the mower. A new elk rotary. The lawn is now uniformly trimmed. Truman's final act of defiance laid to rest. Interior studio conference room, night. Christof stands at a large, specially screened window, silhouetted against the twinkling stars and full moon of a hyperreal night sky. Members of the cast enter the room. Principal characters in Truman's life, Meryl, Marlon, Mother, Kirk, Tyrone, Lawrence, and the new actress, Vivian. They take their places around a long oval table for a story conference, Vivian sitting slightly apart from the rest of the cast. We glimpse over Christof's shoulder at what he sees, the town of Sea Haven, far below, bathed in moonlight. He comes out of his reverie and joins his cast, sitting at the head of the table. In front of him, a TV tablet plays silently, showing Truman drinking a glass of milk in his kitchen.
First of all, I'd like to welcome Walter back onto the show. You may have done us more of a favor than you ever imagined. Regrettably, I also have to inform you that Hannah has chosen not to renew her contract.
All eyes on Meryl. She looks to the floor.
I'm sure we can all respect her reasons.
Meryl receives a sympathetic squeeze of the hand from her co-star Marlon, now out of wardrobe wearing an Armani suit.
As you all know, we have already begun to orchestrate her breakup from Truman. However, on a more optimistic note, I'm pleased to announce that television's first on-air conception will still take place. You witnessed the initial contact this morning. You all know Claudia from her work in theater.
Oh, gosh, I loved your Ophelia.
Why, thank you.
The rest of the cast nod politely in Claudia's direction. Chloe passes out a bound document to each cast member.
This is a copy of Claudia's backstory. Her character's name is Vivian.
The cast idly flips through the documents, prominently stamped on the cover, not to be taken on set.
We intend to entice Truman into the affair as soon as possible. Claudia will make a pass at the insurance seminars. Truman's attending. Details are in your schedule. I don't have to tell you how critical the next few weeks will be. This takes us into the next generation. When Truman's child is born, the network will be switching to a 2-channel format to chronicle both lives.
What happens when Truman and the baby are both on camera together?
This will simply duplicate coverage.
Let's just hope we don't have twins.
When Truman dies, do we go back to the single channel?
The cast turn in his direction. Christof shoots him a disapproving look. Interior Truman's basement night. Truman sleeps on a cot bed in his basement, more cluttered than usual. A virtual bomb site, dozens of cardboard boxes stacked everywhere. Although he's covered in bedding, his sock-clad feet stick out of the bed covers. The outline of his body is still clearly visible. He snores quietly. Interior, various viewer locations night. The two old ladies have nodded off on their sofa in front of the television. Their breathing and occasional snores echo those of Truman. In the bar, the waitress, normally an avid viewer, only idly glances to the screen as she passes with a tray of drinks. The man in the bath resignedly lets the water out of the tub and goes to get out. The mother only occasionally glances at the screen as she feeds her baby. Her daughter has her eyes closed, bopping to her Walkman. Interior control room night. Simeon sits at his console desk, directing the night shift. He pays scant attention to the big screen, giving his instructions in a lethargic, metronomic manner.
Ready to go to 2.
An operator eating a slice of pizza presses one of the illuminated buttons on the panel, and the camera angle changes to a close shot of Truman's covered head. The camera stays on the blanketed head for a long moment.
Back to the medium.
Another button is pressed and the angle changed. A trace of frustration is evident in the control room. Recording a sleeping subject is unrewarding enough without also having to contend with Truman's recently acquired camera shyness.
And wide.
What a loser.
Who cares? Makes life easier on us. He is what he is.
At the far end of the control room, one of the large double doors opens, and Christof enters, dressed in a smoking jacket. Simeon and the operators suddenly straighten in their chairs. Christof pretends not to notice. He is staring intently at the on-air monitor.
Why is he in the basement?
He moved down there after Meryl packed up and left.
Why wasn't I told? Any unpredictable behavior has to be reported. Isn't that the best shot we can get?
What's to see?
What's on the clock cam?
The operator punches up the camera hidden inside a broken cuckoo clock. The box obscures the view.
There's an obstruction.
Christof watches Truman, a trace of concern in his eyes. Chloe enters.
What happened down there? What happened down there?
He was tidying up his garage. I was gonna call you, but halfway through he gave up and fell asleep.
Apparently satisfied, Christof turns to an operator.
I want to check the setups for tomorrow's insurance convention.
Reading off the notes in Chloe's folder, an operator punches up a batch of camera angles on smaller preview monitors. They show a generic-looking hotel devoid of actors. A banner in reception reads, "Welcome Sea Haven Life and Accident." The operator looks to Christof for approval and realizes his producer's attention has wandered. Christof has wandered down to the front of the room to stand beside the giant on-air monitor still displaying the sleeping figure of Truman.
Give me a shot from Truman's ring.
He gave it back to his father.
Christof nods.
Why is he so still?
Christof picks up a spare headset from the panel and puts it to his ear.
Isolate audio.
An operator
Isolate the
pushes
audio.
An operator pushes up an audio fader on the panel. Christof and his colleagues listen to Truman's steady breathing in their headphones.
He's still breathing.
Simeon and the operators nod, reassured that nothing is amiss. Christof is not so easily convinced.
Give me a preview and ECU on his torso.
A camera hidden in the room's lamp zooms into Truman's prone outline. While the breathing remains steady, the body does not rise and fall. Christof, still listening to his headphones, detects a faint scratching sound, followed by a strange thud.
Phone him.
Chloe picks up a phone connected to the desk and dials.
Tell him it's a wrong number.
The upstairs phone begins to ring. Truman doesn't flinch. Interior, an office building somewhere, reception, night. The two security guards are intrigued by Truman's unanswered phone on their television set. Interior control room, night. Christof and Simeon concentrate on another separate monitor playing in fast rewind. Time code to the bottom right-hand corner. It is a recording of the night's transmission. Simeon pauses on the last on-camera appearance by Truman. They watch Truman on screen switch off the basement light and climb into the cot bed fully clothed, immediately pulling the covers over his head. As the light is switched off, the recording camera automatically switches to night vision. Simeon continues to play at normal speed, now and then scrolling forward in fast-forward mode. Christof suddenly points to the screen.
There. Freeze. Zoom into the chair.
Simeon types the appropriate command.
Enhance. There.
On the blown-up screen, between a cardboard box and a chair leg, it is barely possible to make out Truman's hand as he crawls commando style from beneath the covers and behind a cardboard box near the large tool cupboard. Simeon points out an angle of the empty staircase.
He hasn't gone up the stairs. He's still in the room.
Exterior Truman's house, night. Marlon's car squeals to a halt outside Truman's house. Hurriedly dressed in jeans and coat over a bare chest, he dashes barefoot up the porch to the front door. He tries the door handle, pounds on the door, and rings the doorbell simultaneously, shouting Truman's name all the while.
True. True, earthquake alert. A flood. We got to get outside onto the street. True.
Frustrated, Marlon picks up one of Meryl's carefully nurtured flower pots from beneath the porch window.
I'm coming in, True.
He hurls the flower pot through the window. Interior Truman's house, basement. Marlon switches on the light and clambers down the wooden stairs to the basement. He pushes away the clutter and finally stands at the co-star's bedside. He gingerly lifts the covers. Beneath the bedding, clothes have been carefully piled to resemble a sleeping figure, socks placed on the end of two tree branches. Buried amongst the clothes is Truman's portable tape recorder. Marlon places the recorder next to his ear. The cassette plays the sound of Truman breathing. Interior control room, night. Christof stares wide-eyed at the image of the on-air monitor of Marlon.
Find him, Marlon.
Interior basement, night. Marlon starts frantically pushing aside the clutter, sending Truman's model ships and other hobbies crashing to the floor. Eliminating all other possible hiding places, he confronts Truman's tool closet. The wall map of the Fiji Islands still hanging on the door. Marlon rips the door open and is hit with a shaft of light. Moonlight. The top of the closet has been removed and a crude tunnel containing a ladder heads almost directly upwards to the outside of the house. The bottom of the closet is ankle deep with dirt. Embedded in the tunnel wall is Meryl's chef's mate, Truman's digging implement. Exterior Truman's house, night. Marlon's head pops up outside the house. Unable to help himself, Marlon looks directly into the wide shot camera concealed in the streetlight. Interior control room, night.
Marlon, don't look at the camera. Say something.
What? He's gone.
Cut transmission.
Simeon hesitates, unsure if he has heard correctly. He looks to Christof for confirmation, his finger poised over an emergency button.
I said cut.
Christof lunges forward and presses the button himself. The scene in Truman's bedroom playing on the on-air monitor is abruptly replaced by the Truman logo and a message. Technical fault, please stand by. Interior, a living room somewhere. Night. The two old women on the sofa are stunned to see their TV screen go blank. Interior, a bar somewhere. Night. Heads also turn in the bar, permanently tuned to the Truman channel. The other loyal viewer transfixed by the test card is Sylvia, alone in her darkened apartment. Interior control room, night. Reminiscent of a military headquarters in wartime, the control room is a scene of barely controlled panic. Security guards come and go, phones ring, lights flash, every available video mixer is working. The monitors, the eyes of the searchers, are systematically scrutinized for any sign of Truman. Christof orchestrates operations from his position at the center of the control panel.
We've declared a curfew. Everyone else is at first positions.
All prop cars accounted for?
He has to be on foot. He has the world's most recognizable face. He can't disappear.
Exterior Sea Haven, Main Street, night. We pan down one empty street after another. The town center is totally, eerily deserted. Suddenly, a line of people comes around the corner, fanned out across the street. A manhunt. People of every description, shoulder to shoulder, marching down the otherwise empty streets the way a search is conducted at a crime scene. The lines include principals and extras lined arm in arm, wardrobed for their usual roles as executives and secretaries, store clerks, telephonists, maintenance and construction workers, waiters and waitresses, cooks, shoppers, health workers, security guards, postal workers, police officers, firefighters, and homeless people. We occasionally glimpse Truman's friends and colleagues amongst the searchers: Marlon, Lawrence, Mother and Kirk, Vivian and Tyrone. Even the Washingtons and Spencer and Pluto have joined the search. A snarling Pluto straining at the leash has now assumed the role of tracker dog. Truman's pajamas waved in front of his nose, clearly miscast as the friendly neighborhood pooch. Searchlights from Sea Haven's many towers sweep the town. Once the light falls on the blackened face cowering in the bushes beside the picket fence, the fence now faintly reminiscent of prison bars. Even the beam of the full moon appears to be sweeping the town like a searchlight. Exterior bridge night. Barriers have been erected at the bridge leading out of Sea Haven, guarded by several Sea Haven police cars. An extra dressed as a derelict wheels his shopping cart toward the bridge. The derelict takes a long look at the walkway alongside the bridge as if participating in a search. He finds a police officer standing on the walkway.
Any sign of him?
Not yet.
Take it easy.
Interior control room, night. A video operator on the 6th row watches the scene on one of his monitors, the derelict standing with his back to the camera. Just as the derelict turns toward the camera, the operator turns away to take a sip of coffee. He misses what we see on his monitor. The derelict's blackened face belongs to Truman. Exterior bridge, night. The disguised Truman heads back to town. Interior control room, night. Christof turns to a lighting technician.
We need more light.
Exterior Sea Haven streets, night. A building-to-building, floor-to-floor, office-to-office search is also being conducted, each structure secured as they go. The searchers paying special attention to potential blind spots, such as closets, dumpsters, manholes, sewers, car trunks, trees, and shrubbery. We focus on one of the waves of searchers. Truman has linked arms in the middle of a row, his disguise still holding up. Interior control room, night. Christof glances impatiently at his watch.
We'll never find him like this. What time is it?
It's too early.
Doesn't matter. Cue the sun.
Exterior streets, night/day. The sun instantly rises over Sea Haven. Cast and extras shade their eyes from the sudden glare. Interior control room, night. While his colleagues monitor the bank of screens, Christof has been joined by the two anxious studio executives, Moses and Roman.
Rumors are circulating. He's dead. The media's in a feeding frenzy. The phone lines are jammed. Every network has a pirated shot of Marlon in the closet.
The sponsors are threatening to rip up their contracts.
Christof.
Christof, you son of a...
Hey, I employ you, sir. We tell him the truth.
Nope.
What?
Top of
What?
93.
Oh, I should fire myself. Why are we getting higher ratings for that graphic than any time in the show's history when I'm on 93?
Interior bar night. The television above the bar carries the test card. Patrons animatedly discuss Truman's fate over their drinks. Some place bets with each other on Truman's fate. Exterior electronics store night. A crowd of passersby hover around a display of televisions in the window of an electronics store awaiting developments. Interior control room night. The fan of extras reaches the harbor and automatically turns to make another sweep.
Okay, when we flesh him out, how do we explain this?
We tell him the truth.
Chloe looks askance at Christof.
We're making a movie.
Exterior harborside day. However, as he bypasses the entrance to a ticket box, he hasn't bargained on coming face to face with another straggler from the search, Marlon. Truman freezes in front of his childhood companion. Marlon instantly seen through Truman's homeless disguise. Truman glances nervously in the direction of the searchers, their backs to the two men. They are beginning their next sweep. One shout from Marlon will give Truman away. He is at Marlon's mercy. Without a word, Marlon walks past Truman and rejoins the search. Truman glances back to Marlon retreating figure, and Marlon never looks back. Exterior dockside day. Truman reaches the edge of the dock. He looks out over the bay. There, riding at anchor some 200 yards out, is a sailboat. The same boat that circled Kirk and Truman's sailboat many years earlier. We see a close-up of Truman's terrified eyes and his blackened face, staring down at the lapping water. He steels himself, shuts out the doubts, and dives into the water. Interior control room night.
I'm sure we'll get him on this next sweep.
What have we missed?
It's just a matter of time.
Christof concentrates on a monitor displaying a view of the harbor.
We're not watching the sea.
Why would we?
Sweep the harbor.
His colleagues begin to flick through dozens of waterhouse cameras shots in moored craft, lighthouses, and buoys, trying to locate Truman. Suddenly, on one of the monitors, there appears a single sail etched against the horizon.
That's got to be him.
How can he sail? He's in insurance.
Resume transmission.
Simeon punches a button, and the image of the sailboat is instantly transferred to the large on-air monitor. Interior old woman's apartment night. The two old women doze against each other on the sofa in front of the TV. The classical music on the television is abruptly replaced by the sound of the wind and the sea. One old lady blinks her eyes open, her breath taken away by the sight of Truman at the wheel of a sailboat. She rouses her companion. Interior control room night.
What do we have on the boat?
Simeon scans a computer shot list. He types in a code. A camera from the mast of Truman's sailboat activates. Truman, unaware of the camera, is concentrating on his sailing. Exterior harbor day. By now, the ocean spray has washed most of the dirt from Truman's face. Only a residue remains. The rags he wears are soaked. As he steers, he occasionally refers to a how to sail book from his coat pocket. Interior, a bathroom somewhere, night. The man in the bath we have seen earlier continues to watch from his tub.
I knew he wasn't dead.
Exterior harbor day. Truman is at the wheel of the sailboat, wind filling her sails. Sea haven left far behind, his is the only craft afloat in the harbor. He sets a course for the open sea, and as he and his father did long ago. Interior control room night. Christof and the other production staff watch Truman from the buoy's point of view as he sails by.
Get another boat. Joel, get another boat.
Chloe.
Chloe, whoever the hell you are, get another boat.
The ferry?
Thank you.
Exterior ferry terminal day. A production assistant runs down the dock towards the ferry captain and his crew. Get that boat out of here!
I don't know how. We were just told to put on these clothes.
Exterior harbor day. The sea choppier now, rising and falling steeply beneath his boat, Truman nears a large buoy bobbling clumsily in the strong swell. An official-looking sign on the buoy reads, "Dangerous waters, do not enter." We see an extreme close-up of a nautical signpost where the disguised miniature camera tracks Truman's progress. Interior control room night.
How do we stop him?
How else?
Christof nods to controls on the mixing desk marked wind and rain. Exterior harbor day. Storm clouds roll toward Truman's boat at an alarming speed. He looks back toward the Sea Haven skyline, rapidly receding behind him. Doubts invade Truman's head, but he shuts them out and steers into the teeth of the storm, a look of resolve on his eyes we have never witnessed before. Interior control room night. Moses and Roman pace at the back of the control room. Christof is focused on his monitor. Like Truman, he steels himself for a fight.
Music. Cue music.
What music?
Storm music. Wagner.
Wagner? Look, there's no rescue boat in the area. He won't know what to do.
Thank you, Chloe.
God's sake, Chris, the whole world's watching. We can't let him die in front of a live audience.
Or mispronounce Wagner.
I mean, mispronouncing the words. Wagner, he was born in front of a live audience. Don't worry, he's not willing to risk his life for Wagner. His doubts will turn him back.
Simeon reluctantly winds the controls for wave, wind, and rain towards their maximum settings.
Kill the lights and Wagner.
Exterior harbor day. Darkness suddenly descends. High winds and horizontal driving rain buffet the boat. Truman fights the tillier. Hurricane force winds shake the mast and keel, ripping the sails to shreds. Suddenly, the mast of Truman's boat is struck by a bolt of lightning, snapping the rigging and knocking Truman overboard. Flailing in the tempest, Truman manages to grab hold of the trailing rope from the mast and hand over hand drags himself back on board. Truman takes the rope and lashes himself to the wheel. Monstrous waves continually submerge the boat. With what little is left of his rigging, Truman continues to head into the gale.
Come on! Is that the best you could do? You're gonna have to kill me!
Interior control room night. In contrast to his panic-stricken colleagues, Christof gives an outward appearance of calm. Only we witness the minute bead of sweat appearing at his temple that betrays him.
Is he out of his mind?
On behalf of the studio, I demand you cease that transmission.
Keep running. I'll try it in French. Keep running.
That's not for you to say.
I take full responsibility.
I'm telling you for the last time.
How close is he?
Very close.
Capsize him. Tip him over.
For God's sake, Christof!
Himself to the boat. He'll drown.
He doesn't care.
Do it.
All eyes turn in Christof's direction. None of the operators is willing to touch the controls. Christof reaches to the panel and does it himself, turning the wave controls to their maximum settings. Exterior ocean day. A series of giant breakers march in formation across the sea, arising from an unseen source. Exterior ocean day. The waves break across Truman's vessel. Truman appears to be losing his fight against the storm, each successive wave taking its toll on his body, sapping his strength, his bindings, and the only thing keeping him upright. His head slumps, the tiller goes loose in his grasp, rocking out of control. Truman's will is draining away. Interior control room night. The control room crew watch the heroic image of Truman on the on-air monitor, awestruck, as if they too are now spectators watching a movie. Exterior ocean day. As he is about to be overcome by the next wave, Truman clamps the wheel of his whole body with his whole body and braces for one last wave. But the wave does not come. A strange phenomenon is occurring in the ocean. A distinct division has appeared in the ocean swell. Between the large rolling waves lies a corridor of calmer water, several hundred yards wide, a curious escape lane. The wind and the rain are also subsiding, the darkness lifting. A mist clings to the surface of the water. Truman steers his sailboat down the eerie corridor. Several large dark shapes emerge on the horizon. Land? Islands? The shapes containing some enormous mechanism, including a huge wheel only half exposed above the water level, appear to be the source of the peculiar wave formations. Truman continues to steer his wrecked sailboat towards the infinitely receding horizon. All is calm until we see the bow of the boat suddenly strike a huge blue wall, knocking Truman off his feet. Truman recovers and clambers across the deck to the bow of the boat. Looming above him out of the sea is a cyclorama of colossal dimensions. The sky he has been sailing towards is nothing but a painted backdrop. Truman looks upward, straining his eyes to see the top of the sky, but it curves away at a steep angle beyond his sight. Clinging to the boat with one hand, he tentatively reaches out toward the painted cyclorama. He touches the sky. He looks about him and simply laughs. Interior control room night. Christof and his production staff take in Truman's reaction in stunned silence. Interior, exterior, bathroom, laundromat, storefront, apartment, night. Truman's laugh echoes around bars, offices, shops, homes, and streets. Wherever a television is to be found, no viewer speaks. They too are stunned into a hushed expectancy. The collective audience holds its breath. Exterior ocean cyclorama day. As the boat drifts alongside the seemingly never-ending curve of the cyclorama, Truman's attention is drawn to an outline in the otherwise flawless backdrop. He retrieves the identikit picture of Sylvia from his coat pocket and clambers to the prow of the boat. There, camouflaged in the painted skyscape just above the waterline, is a door. Truman grabs hold of the recessed door handle and halts the drifting boat. He stands in front of the door and closes his eyes in silent prayer. Interior control room night. The control room crew stare in silence at the monitor, their very livelihood on the brink of vanishing. Christof opens a small panel on his desk, breaks a seal, and speaks into the emergency PA system that is linked to the entire studio.
Truman.
Interior exterior ocean cyclorama day. Christof's voice booms over the now calm ocean.
Truman.
Truman drops the handle as if his hand has been burned. He looks all about him.
You can speak. I can hear you.
Truman takes a moment to overcome his fear and astonishment.
Who are you?
I'm the creator.
Truman looks up to the heavens.
Creator of what?
A show that gives hope and joy and inspiration to millions.
Show. And who am I?
You're the star.
Truman struggles to take it all in.
Nothing was real.
You were real. That's what made you so good to watch.
Truman takes out the drenched picture of Sylvia, recalling her words at the beach.
Eyes are everywhere.
Interior control room night. Christof picks up a slim, flat monitor. He swivels in his chair and gazes intently at the image of Truman he now holds in his hands.
Listen to me. Truman.
On the screen, Truman again reaches for the door handle. Exterior cyclorama day. We focus on Truman's hand. Christof's voice echoes across the water.
You can leave if you want. I won't try to stop you. But you won't survive out there. You know what to do, where to go.
A wave of doubt washes over Truman's face.
I have a map.
Truman, I've watched you your whole life. I saw you take your first step, your first word, your first kiss. I know you better than you know yourself. You're not gonna go walk out that door.
Never had a camera in my head.
Interior, exterior, various locations night. The viewers stare into camera in fascination. Interior control room night. Truman turns back to the sky, looking up towards Christof.
Truman, there's no more truth out there than in the world I created for you. The same lies and deceit. But in my world, you have nothing to fear.
Truman seems to be considering the possibilities. He looks to the identikit picture of Sylvia in his hands.
Say something, damn it. You're still on camera. Live to the world.
Interior, a room somewhere, night. Sylvia gazes at the picture of herself on her television screen as if it is her reflection in the mirror. Exterior, cyclorama day. Truman hesitates. Perhaps he cannot go through with it after all. The camera slowly zooms into Truman's face.
In case I don't see you. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
He steps through the door and is gone. Silence. Then, interior, exterior viewers night. Spontaneous jubilation from viewers in their various locations, bars, homes, and offices. We follow the figure of Sylvia running through the streets. Some of the viewers outside an electronics store glimpse her as she runs by. Interior control room night. Even the cynical Simeon jumps out of his seat for the first time in the film and lets out a joyous whoop, forgetting himself for a moment, caught up in the drama.
Yes!
Self-conscious, he takes his seat again almost immediately. His colleagues are transfixed by the live on-air monitor, continuing to play its only available shot, the open door in the sky. Gradually, the attention of those in the control room shifts from the monitor to Christof. He sits slumped, staring at the open door in the sky. Eventually, Moses looks to Simeon. Moses nods to the on-air button. Simeon presses the button and the movie screen, goes to static. Montage and titles. Highlights from Truman, total record of a human life begin to play. Fade out. All right, nice work, everyone. I loved it. Where's our cast? There they are. All right, well, thank you guys for joining us for the Truman Show. Hope you had a good time and have a good night.